Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei got Venom and Massive Harem Part 3? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the xDoug-Dimmadome-x for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Issei was walking to the dinner table, followed by Rias and Akino holding his arms to there while Kaneko was sitting on his shoulders. Azazel, Zenobia, Kiba, Irina and Asia were already at the dinner table, waiting for the others to arrive so they could eat. Upon arrival, Asia smiled at Issei. "Issei, you look tired. Are you okay?" Azazel grinned, knowing exactly what went down. "Oh, I think he is more than all right. It seems he is most satisfied," Azazel said with an all-knowing look. Issei shot him a look that said, "Shut up." "Oh, I am all right, Asia. Thanks for asking." "No worries, Issei," Asia said with a blush. The girls took their seats with Akino at his right and Rias at his left while Kaneko sat in his lap, as it was her seat ever since they left the underworld after the Citri battle. "So Issei, how does it feel to be officially a man?" Issei shot him another dirty look. Azazel sent him a smile. "What do you mean, Azazel?" Asia asked. "Oh, why don't you ask Issei?" Azazel said with a wide smile. "So Issei, why don't you tell her what it feels like to be officially a man?" Issei glared at him while Akino was just giggling. "Can we just eat our dinner?" Issei asked out of everyone, which Azazel decided to leave him be and eat his dinner with the others. "It seems you are taking care of my sister Issei," said a male voice coming from behind. Issei just groaned loudly and looked up at the ceiling, as if praying to God to end him. Rias was going red at this, seeing that her brother knows exactly what they did. Serzex and Azazel laughed together, seeing the two embarrassed together. Serzex took a seat next to Azazel, grinning as there was a plate set out for him. "So Issei, how was my sister?" "Brother!" Rias exclaimed. "What? Can I care about my sister's lover?" Issei groaned out loud, seeing Asia, Irina and Zenobia gasp. They all then glared at Issei and Rias. "Don't forget the fact he is also the lover of the cat and the sadist." "Seriously? Why are you doing this?" Issei exclaimed, his face red from Azazel and Serzex being butt heads. Azazel and Serzex let out a laugh as Akino, Rias, Issei and Kaneko had extremely red faces. Why am I always left out?" Asia complained. "I can never catch up," Zenobia said sadly. "This must be a test by Michael and our Lord," Irina stated while putting her hands together. Serzex coughed and decided to speak up. "Anyways, I hear you guys are having your school trip in 2 days. You guys do know about the television appearance tonight, right?" "Of course. We are planning on coming over after dinner," Rias said. "Ah, good. Where are you guys going for the trip?" "I want to go to the beach, but they are dragging me along to Kyoto," Issei said, rolling his eyes. Azazel and Serzex chuckled at this. "Oh boy, you got trouble ahead for you," Azazel said. Serzex frowned a bit at that, but he started to laugh with Azazel. Issei began to eat his dinner, just giving up with everything. These two adults are going to drive him insane. About 2 hours later, Issei, Rias and her peerage, minus Irina, were in the underworld. They were located in a television studio sitting on chairs in a large room. It was then Rias got up suddenly with a shocked expression. "Serorg!" Rias exclaimed. Issei looked over from the corner where he was sitting with Kaneko on his lap and noticed a handsome young man with black hair and violet eyes. He also was extremely tall, the size of Issei, who was 6'6" and was extremely muscular, the same as Issei. Kaneko got off of his lap and both of them walked over to them both. "It's been a while, Rias," Serorg said. Rias and Serorg hugged each other tightly with smiles. Issei noticed that he looked strong. Issei then sensed the fact he was very strong, though not on his level by far, but would be a very powerful opponent to face right behind Loki. "Yeah, I miss you. It's great to see that you are doing well. What are you doing here? Oh, where are my manners? These are my servants. Everyone, this here is Serorg, and he is my cousin on my mother's side." Serorg turned to everyone and gave them a big smile. "Hello everyone, I am Serorg Bale, the next head of the Bale family." "Serorg, why are you here?" Rias asked after everyone said hello, though Issei just said yo. Ah, I am here for an interview myself. Most likely a different studio from you guys. I saw your match. Rias raised an eyebrow. No matter how much power you have, if you get trapped you will lose. They will aim for the slight opening with full power. Remember, there are many unknowns in a sacred gear, so we won't know what will happen and what it can do. Compatibility is also important in the game. I have learned many things from the match between you and Sona Citri. However, I do know you won by a landslide, and it's all because of one of your servants. xDoug said, turning to Issei with a grin. Venomous. Issei smirked. I think my friends could have won without me. I just made it easier. I do not think so. If you were taken out, I think they would have fallen into despair and would have lost. Issei turned and looked at everyone, all of the girls who looked back at him. It was then he realized, if he was to ever die or be taken out in a game, he might cause the team to lose. Though if you are taken out, they might fight even stronger and fiercer. Something to keep in mind. However, I desire to fight you with only pure power. That sounds like a great time, Issei said with a smile. Wanna do it after the interview? Sounds tempting, but actually xDoug didn't inform you, did he? We will be having a match a week after your school trip. Everyone but Issei gasped at this. Are you serious? Rias questioned. Yup, we will be in the arena together, Rias. I hope you are prepared. With that, xDoug left. About 5 minutes later, a staff member appeared with a clipboard. Is Kiba Yuto and Akino Himejima here? Ah, that would be me. I am Kiba Yuto, said Kiba, stepping forward. Akino also stepped forward. I am Akino Himejima. I think there would be quite a number of questions asked for you two for the interview. Both of you are increasing in popularity. Issei smiled. That's great, you guys, Issei said with a thumbs up. Akino gave him a smile. Kiba is getting more female fans while Akino is getting more male fans, the staff member said. Don't worry, Issei. I only have my eyes for you, so I won't go to another person, Akino said with a wink. Issei just blushed and rubbed the back of his head. And who is the other person, Issei Hyoudou? The staff asked. Ah, that would be me, Issei said. Are you sure? The lady asked. Yeah, I am positive I am. I am the pawn, Issei Hyoudou. I am also Venomous. You are. Your other form had a strong impression, so I couldn't tell if it was you in your normal state. Issei chuckled. He was in his suit the entire time during the match against Sona and the fight against Loki. Issei will have an interview in a different studio. You are famous for being venomous. Really? Yup. You have become popular amongst children. It seems you remind them of suited comic book heroes. Plus you are strong. Haha. Who would have thought I would be popular on this planet? Back where I came from, I wasn't a celebrity. Haha. I like this, Toxic said to Issei. Glad you like it. Then Issei, please follow me to a different studio. I will guide you. Issei left while giving Rias, Akino and Kaneko a goodbye. This made Asia mad and Zenobia upset. About an hour and a half later, Issei was in his dressing room. Rias and all the others were also in there, and Issei was relaxing in a chair by himself, sipping some water. Kaneko was in the bathroom. During the interview there was an audience. Issei was in his suit, being interviewed as Venomous. There were a ton of children and their parents in the audience, so Issei was also cheered upon. The children would shout, Venomous! Venomous! Or show us the venomous bite! Or shoot webs out! Issei did shoot some webs out for the children, though he told them his venomous bite is only for the bad guys. This made the children scream with joy. So Issei, what were you interviewed about at the other studio? Rias asked. It's a secret. I was told to not tell anyone, Issei said with an evil laugh. I understand. I will be looking forward to it, Rias said with a smile. The door opened and someone entered, and it was someone familiar. It was a girl with her hair braided with drills. Is Issei here? Ah, the sister of the Manugget. Ravel turned her head towards Issei, and she was red in the face. The name is Ravel. Ugh. Issei let out a laugh. Geez, lighten up, I am only teasing. So what brings you here? Ravel just blew some steam out of her orifices and shoves a basket into his arms. It was then Kaneko arrived. Tea this. It's a cake. My second eldest brother has a television program in the studio, so I came to give you this since I had time. Issei looked into the basket and looked back at her. Did you make this? Why, yes. Of course. I have confidence if it is a cake. And I promised you that I would make you a cake. Thank you, but you could have made it for me when we have tea like we promised, right? I won't do anything to disturb you. You have a match against Sarog Bale coming up soon, right? So I won't waste your time, but I thought I could just give you a cake. You should be grateful, Ravel said, a bit forcefully. Tea then I will be leaving here, Ravel said, heading to leave. Wait. Kiba, can you make me a small knife, please? Issei asked, and Kiba nodded, giving him a knife. Issei quickly cut a small piece of cake and swallowed it into his mouth. Ravel was waiting at the door, looking at Issei. Issei swallowed the piece, then smiled big. Do you like it? Ravel asked. It is delicious. Thank you. I will eat this when I get home. Ha 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 ha. I do not know when I will see you next, so I thought I would tell you what I thought about this take. I will make sure to arrange having tea with you when I can. If it is me that you would like to have a drink with, though. Ravel began to get tears in her face, and her face was also red to the max. Issei, for the next match, I will be cheering for you, Ravel yelled out before running away, sprinting out. Issei turned to the others and he noticed that Rias had her eyes closed while raising her eyebrows. The other girls were looking at him with a very scary atmosphere, which made Issei back up a little. It was the next day, and the gang is riding on the bullet train to Kyoto. Issei, Rias, her peerage, Irina and Azazel were riding on the train for their class trip. It was on its way to a city in Japan known as Kyoto, which was a well-known tourist attraction due to the amount of shrines that were there. Issei was sitting in his seat, located in the main back of the entire train, with Irina to his right, Kaneko on his lap, and Asia to his left. Akino, Rias and Kiba were sitting in the first train car, while Azazel and Zenobia were riding in the same car with them. I can't wait for this trip. It sounds so exciting. Yeah, I've been wondering about that. Why are you here on this trip? Oh. I just transferred to your school yesterday. Ah, well, I am glad to have you around, Issei said with a big smile. With that, Irina began to blush heavily before looking away. Attention all passengers. Please take your seats as we are arriving at Kyoto Station. Please wait in your seats until we come to a full stop. Thank you for riding with us today. Have a good day, said the loudspeaker. Kaneko. I know that you want to stick with me, but I am going off on my own today. I want to do my own sightseeing. I understand. Please come with us at least for lunch. Of course. How about I meet with you guys at that steakhouse over by the palace? Okay, Kaneko said. As the train got off on a stop, Kaneko got up from her seat, but not before giving Issei a passionate on his. Issei at her back before rubbing her head softly. Asia from behind them was red in the face, making a very cute angry face. Issei, Kaneko, Asia and Irina got off the train, and it was then Rias came over smiling and waving. Alright guys. Let's get going, Rias yelled out from over the crowd. However, she watched as Issei sprinted away, doing some parkour and leaping on top of the roof of the station. Issei! She yelled out, but Issei was gone. Azazel laughed. I guess he really didn't want to stay with the group. Perhaps he has his own sightseeing to do? Well, I think I shall take his lead and go on my own. I will see you guys at the steakhouse, alright? Rias sighed. Fine. You and him are really made for each other. How sweet, Azazel said with a laugh before walking away, going off on his own. Rias and her group also went together, going to visit the different shrines on their schedule, but first they went to the hotel, going to check in. They were going to check in for Issei and Azazel as well. Issei was leaping across the buildings of Kyoto, running across the rooftops and jumping across onto the other one. He had a massive amount of stamina, so he could run for quite a while. Issei then jumped from a building before landing on a light post and sliding down. He was then running up the stairs to a shrine, which was on top of a high mountain. He was going to do some slight training while getting some alone time. It wasn't that he had sightseeing to do, but he really wanted to get away from the girls for a while. They were smothering him with an yes and hugs. Sure, he loved it all, but all men needed alone time away from the women sometimes. The night after the television program, Issei, Kaneko, Rias and Akino were all having more happy fun time in the web that Issei slept in that was kept in his room. That night he was finally forced into exhaustion because he spent hours upon hours pleasing the girls and having them drain him dry of his essence. He loved it, of course, but he fell asleep so fast it was ridiculous. Issei finally reached the top of the mountain, and he was now slightly breathing heavily, though it was easily stopping. Issei went up to the shrine and noticed it was one of the things he was supposed to pray upon. He went up and deposited some change into the donation jar, before kneeling at the altar. Hello? I don't pray much at all, and I suppose I should be sorry about that, but I haven't been upset or anything lately, so I haven't had a reason to pray really until now. I know that you see me as a big pervert, but I honestly care about them all. All I want is the power to keep all the girls happy. Thank you? Not from Kyoto? Said a voice. Issei began to look around and he noticed he was being surrounded by 50 different figures, though they were hiding in the shadows. Issei stood up after closing his eyes, breathing out before getting into a fighting stance. It was then a figure appeared before him, walking over to him with anger in her eyes. She was a very cute girl in a priestess outfit. She was about as small as Kaneko. She had blonde hair, animal ears, a foxtail and golden irises. She looked to be about the age of an elementary student. Outsider! How dare you! Attack! The girl yelled out in rage, gnashing her teeth out at him while glaring at him. At the girl's command, people came out from behind the trees and charged. What did I do? Issei yelled out as he ducked under a sword from one of the attackers. There were many figures with crow heads and dressed like mountain hermits, while there were others with fox masks who dressed like priests. Issei quickly kicked back with his right foot, taking the figure who missed him with the sword by kicking him in the back of the leg. He was going to be down for the count. I don't want to hurt these guys, this has to be a misunderstanding. Oh shit! Issei did a splits on the ground, ducking under two swords who tried to make him into 3 different Isseis. Give my mother back! The young girl yelled out as she pointed at Issei. Issei began to use his reflexes and speed to his advantage, grabbing their arms and knocking them all away or getting them to the ground. He was only trying to disable them, though not permanently, but it was tougher than he expected. Mother? What are you talking about? I don't know who your mother is, Issei yelled back at her. However, the girl didn't listen. Don't lie. My eyes cannot be deceived. Whatever, Issei stated, flipping over a figure who came charging at him. He had already taken down 10 of their 30, and he was having major close calls. If he went into his venomous form, he was afraid he would kill them. You, my mother! Unforgivable! Unclean devils! You have tainted this sacred place. I will not forgive you. I am here on a class trip. I have permission to be here. Issei roared out as he took out the 25th target, leaving only 5 left. You liar! I will make you pay for this, the girl yelled out, forming some fire in her hands. She then shot it at him. Issei saw the green flame come and he just punched it, the flames not doing much to him except burning the hair off his hands. It was then a figure appeared. Hey! It's you! I haven't seen you in forever. Did you miss me? Said a very hyperactive voice. Issei narrowed his eyes and groaned, knowing the voice all too well. It was Seraphal Leviathan. So it seems you are in a pickle. You know this ruffian who took my mother? The girl exclaimed in shock. He didn't take your mother. You are mistaking him for the real bad people, said Seraphal with a cute wink. What? She is correct. I did not take your mother. I came here on a school trip from Ko Academy. I suppose I don't have my card on me that states I can be here, but I did not take your mother. It was then the girl began to cry, tears flooding her face. What did I say? Did I say something mean? Issei said, really worried. And no. I just miss my mother. The girl sobbed into her arm. Issei walked over and knelt down, rubbing her head. Hey, don't cry. I'm sure your mother is okay. Can you tell me what happened? Irena, Rias and her peerage were walking towards the palace as it was nearing lunchtime. You think Issei is going to show? He promised, Kaneko stated. It was then a green mist appeared at their feet. What is this? Akino wondered. I know this feeling, Ria stated. Dimension lost. Kiba stated. They found themselves at the palace and a figure appeared. He was dressed in Chinese clothing while carrying a spear. Ah, the Gremry group. I have heard much about you, said the man. There was also a few other people appearing. A female with a sword, a male with several swords on his back and on his belt, a large man with a big buff body, a young boy who looked about the age of a 7th grader, and a teenager with glasses. The true Longinus. Issei was sitting on the ground in front of a bench. The girl and Seraphol were sitting on it. The girl's name was Kunu. She lost her mother when she was kidnapped, and there was no ransom note or anything. She was just taken. This really devastated the girl. Seraphol was getting up and talking on a phone, and she looked serious and worried now. Hey, I'm sure your mother is okay. All right? It was then Seraphol returned. Issei Azazel just contacted me. The Gremry group disappeared. It seems they found those who kidnapped the mother. Are they okay? I do not know. They are by the palace. Issei stood up, his eyes becoming more serious and darker. Seraphol. Get Azazel and come with me. I want to make sure my friends are okay, and I want to stop whoever is doing this. Of course. I can take us there, Seraphol said, forming a magic circle. It was then Kunu got into the circle. I am coming with. Fine, Kunu, but if it gets too dangerous, I want you to stay with Azazel or Seraphol. But I can help. If something happens to you, I will never forgive myself. Just promise me, okay? Fine. All three of them were transported elsewhere. When they arrived, Azazel was already waiting. A green mist appeared around their feet, and they were taken. Azazel. Seraphol. Can you cover out here? I have a very bad feeling, Issei said, clenching his fist. Be careful, all right? Azazel asked. I will, but if what I feel is true, there will be no survivors, Issei said, lacing his threat with venom. Issei made his way across the bridge, which was over a moat. The palace looked like a castle used by knights. As Issei entered the palace, the bridge closed. Kunu was on top of Issei's shoulders. Issei arrived inside of the main hallway, and that is when his eyes went wide. Bodies. Bodies everywhere. Blood. Issei ran over to the bodies, and it was what he feared. Rias, Akino, Kaneko, Kiba, Irina, and Zenobia were on the ground, bleeding. Asia was also there, but she looked uninjured, though she was unconscious. Issei had tears in his eyes, which flowed down his cheeks. Issei ran over to Asia, slightly shaking her to awaken her. Asia then awoke, opening her eyes slowly. Issei. It's okay. You are safe. Can you please help our friends? Of course, I'm sorry we couldn't stop them. It's okay. I'm sorry for not being here. It's my fault. It's not Issei's fault, Asia said, healing up everyone using a healing wave that expanded in all directions. Asia, take Kunu here and protect her, Issei said. He then snapped and a red magic circle appeared and Satan appeared. Satan, protect Asia and the others. Kunu, stay here. If your mother is in there, I will set her free, but stay here, I will be back, Issei said, his eyes trembling with sadness and anger. He stood up and began to walk to the door up ahead that led into the main grounds. Issei sobbed a bit and stopped. He looked back. I'm sorry, everyone. I was selfish and I let you all get hurt. I'm so sorry. Issei made his way to the front door, and he pulled at it, noticing it was locked. Issei put on his venomous suit and began to melt. He melted into a puddle before sliding under the door and appearing on the other side. As Issei arrived, there was a lot of people in the area. Most looked like henchmen, but there was a group who looked like the culprits. A man with a spear, a buff man, 2 figures with swords, and 2 young boys. There was also an older fox lady, which Issei assumed was her mother. Ah, we have company, said the man with the spear. Who are you? Did you do that out there? Yes. Me group and I were the ones who handled the group out there. Who are you? Your executioner, Issei stated with venom before melting into a puddle. The puddle stayed a puddle for about 20 seconds before it shot up into the air, forming into a massive ball. The ball was the size of a SUV. It was then the ball formed a mouth, looking like Venomous' mouth though enlarged. It had massive teeth which looked like it could chomp off limbs and bone with one bite. What the hell is that? The man with the swords asked. Who the hell is that? The buff man asked. It was then the ball shot out 30 tentacles out of its back. 6 of the tentacles hit the ground and formed feet, though the feet looked like an open box that was put flat. The ball had 2 eyes placed on the top of the mouth, and it turned its attention to the group. I will kill all of you. How dare you do that to my friends? How dare you do this to the girls I love? Issei stated from the ball. Now you get to meet my ultimate form. Issei yelled out, his voice racked with anger and sobs. Issei attacked, stomping a foot down on top of a culprit, while charging at the group of figures. It's a challenge. Let's do this, the buff man said, charging at Issei. The height of Issei in this form was about 60 feet tall. As the buff man leapt at Issei, 4 tentacles found its way around his limbs, holding him still. Heracles, said the female. What the hell? I can't get free. The young man began to glow with black power as figures began to appear from under his feet. It was black monsters. Issei turned his attention to that before using a tentacle to pick up the young boy. He then threw the young boy into the air, towards his mouth, which he quickly bit down, biting the boy in half. He spat out the lower half of the boy, before ripping the limbs off of Heracles. You monster! What is this strength? Heracles yelled out as he fell to the ground. However, 2 more tentacles appear, wrapping around his forehead and his lower body. The tentacle then proceeded to rip his head off. Issei used the tentacle and released the large fox lady from her binds before moving her to safety. The man with the spear leapt at Issei's head, the light spear extended. However, 10 tentacles thrashed at him, which sent him flying into the ground. As he hit the ground, a tentacle found its way around his leg, lifting him into the air and holding him still. The man with the glasses was now firing blast after blast of magical energy, smacking the head of Issei, which just roared in fury. It didn't do any damage, but it angered him. A tentacle found its way to the man with the glasses, though the man didn't even notice. The tentacle formed a spike and rammed itself right into the back of the glasses guy, coming out the stomach and lifting him in the air. The man with the spear cut off the tentacle around his leg, which made Issei roar in pain. The entire tentacle was being destroyed, so Issei quickly ripped off the tentacle from its base, before the light spear could make its damage to Issei's main body. The 2 figures with swords began to slash at Issei's tentacles, which about 10 of them were slashing at the figures, having a sword fight with them. We need to get out of here, the man with the spear said. Chow chow. I will get you guys out of here before I die. Please, the man impaled said. Thank you, George. Come on, everyone. All around, tentacles were destroying the henchmen, killing them off with ease. Chow Chow and the 2 figures with the swords ran together, but Issei grinned. Issei began to snort before spitting out something. It was venom. As the venom smacked down right at the group, it formed into gas which began to choke the trio. Tentacles quickly picked all 3 of them up, pinning them by their arms and legs, forcing them to be unable to move. One tentacle embedded itself into the gut of the man with the swords before bringing him up to Issei's face. Issei grinned at him as the tentacle began to pump something into the man's body. The tentacle then released the man, who began to scream in pain as his body was being liquefied. The man was turned into a puddle of goo as Chow Chow and the female just looked at Issei with fear in their eyes. Who are you? Chow Chow exclaimed. I am Issei Hyoudou, pawn of Rias Gremry and also her lover. I am also the lover of Kaneko Tuju and Akino Himejima. 3 of the girls out there. You also injured the other women out there who I care about a lot. I am also the one who defeated Loki single-handedly. I am the one who killed Diodora Astaroth. I am Venomous. A tentacle found its way down the of the female, which she began to choke upon. However, 5 seconds later, she exploded in a shower of blood, guts and body parts. The tip of the tentacle had expanded into a massive ball. Damn you, so the hero dies. You a hero? You are not a hero. You are a joke. You cause pain for others because you feel threatened. Heroes don't harm innocents. Innocents? Devils are not innocents. All of you supernatural creatures are monsters. I have never once harmed an innocent in my life. The only monster is you. Issei grabbed the spear from the ground in his tentacle before walking with Chow Chow towards the hallway. Issei transformed back into his normal venomous self, but his right hand was formed into 4 tentacles, still wrapped around Chow Chow's limbs. His left hand was carrying the spear. Issei walked down the hallway and Issei smiled happily. There waiting for him was all of them, though injured and weak, alive. Issei! Rias exclaimed. Issei smiled. Rias, I am so sorry for not being here. I was selfish and wanted alone time, and look at what happened to you. You could have died. Issei, don't beat yourself up. Everyone needs alone time. It isn't your fault. If I was here, I could have saved you all. We are alive, aren't we? Plus, you defeated all of the enemies, right? Issei nodded. Yes. They are all dead except this one, Issei said, motioning his head to Chow Chow. You have a monster for a servant, Rias Gremory. He is no monster. The true monster is Satan. Satan? Issei threw Chow Chow across the ground towards Satan, who was waiting in the darkness. As Chow Chow stood up, when he turned around he saw 2 hairy legs in the air and 2 massive fangs. It then struck. Chow Chow screamed as he was dragged into the darkness, his screams of pain ringing through the halls. But his screams ended within 3 seconds as the venom did its magic. Satan had another meal. Issei transformed back into his human state, and he still carried the spear. Rias looked over and noticed Issei was not taking damage by the spear. How are you able to hold on to that spear? I dunno. 'Cause I defeated him, so it's mine? Issei said, shrugging. Oh. Kunu! Come with me, Issei said, picking up Kunu and running to the grounds. When Issei arrived, Kunu screamed out happily as her mother was there smiling, waiting for her. Mother! Hello, dear. You're back. Of course I am, and it is all thanks to this man, said the older woman. Rias and her peerage, Azazel and Irina all arrived. Issei rubbed the back of his head. It's no problem. I only did what a true hero does. I save people and I condemn those who do bad things. Azazel rolled his eyes. You do know heroes don't actually condemn those who do bad, right? Shut up, Issei snapped. Azazel let out a chuckle. Rias smiled. All right, let us go home. I think we've had enough of Kyoto. Issei, Rias, her peerage, Azazel, Irina, Kunu and her mother, Yasaka, all walked towards the train station. As they began to board. Venomous, said the young girl Kunu. Just calling me Issei is fine, all right? Issei said with a smile. Kunu had a red face and asked shyly. Issei, are you still coming back to Kyoto? Someday, definitely. You must come back. Kunu will always wait for you. I can't wait. Hope you can show me around. Yes, Kunu said with a very red face. Azazel, Yasaka and Leviathan were talking a few yards away. Issei boarded the train with everyone, and as the train began to depart. Thank you, Issei. We will meet again, everyone, Kunu said, waving goodbye. Issei waved goodbye with a smile. About 2 hours later, everyone arrived home. Ah. Hey guys. I was informed by Surzex that a show he is producing is on, Azazel stated, turning on the TV. As it turned on, it was on a devil channel. The show started with the song Venomous. It then showed Issei in his venomous suit, fighting bad guys like in one of those hero shows. Everyone but Azazel looked at Issei with shock. Issei smiled. Yeah, this is what they did with me back at the television studio. Somehow Surzex got me into doing this. Yup. The yokai world has also decided to start broadcasting this show. Era, Issei is going to be famous, Akino stated with a smile. Yay, Issei said with sarcastic enthusiasm. Oh, by the way, the House of Phoenix's daughter is going to transfer to Ko tomorrow. Issei was the only one shocked. Ravel? Really? Ah, yes. It looks like she was influenced by Rias and Sona's example, and she requested to study in Japan. She should be a second year. The formalities are all complete. The same year as Kaneko, I think. But cats and birds don't get along too well. Watching them together will be fun, Azazel said with a grin. Whatever, Kaneko said, displeased. She was sitting on Issei's lap. Why did she suddenly transfer? Issei asked. Azazel looked at him long and hard. What? Yes, this is just my guess. Rias will be having a tougher time. All the other girls wore complicated expressions. I can't relax? Asia stated. Endure, Asia. It takes time to develop relations, Zenobia said. Yes, I have no choice but to endure now, Irina said. Issei wore a confused expression. All right, everyone. Let us go to bed. We have a long week ahead of us. We need to prepare for the match against Serorg, but first we need to regain our strength. Everyone went to their beds, which was incidentally in Issei's room. All the girls except Irina went with Issei to his room. Come on, Venomous. Is this all you got? Please tell me this isn't the legendary underworld protector, said the evil bad man, dressed in an outfit that resembled a scorpion, tail and all. You can do it, Venomous. Here. Venomous stood up and touched the breast of a girl who looks very similar to Rias. As Venomous touched the left breast, the girl let out a cute sound and Venomous stood up with a roar. His suit got slightly thicker and Venomous was ready. Here I come, Stinger. You will not succeed today, Venomous yelled out, running at the scorpion guy and delivering a punch to his face. Scorpion went down in a single hit, with a giant explosion coming from when the scorpion landed. As the show ended with the credits, Azazel and Surzex were both smiling while Issei was pinching the bridge of his nose. So you are telling me you designed a show where I get strength from touching Rias's breast? Is this really what this show is going to do? The children love it. This show aired 5 hours ago, and the ratings skyrocketed. The children really like the show, so we are going to go with it, Azazel stated with pride. Who knew that my sister's lover could get so powerful just by sleeping with her? Well, we couldn't show that, so we settled for just touching, which you did, of course. She does have magnificent, doesn't she? Surzex said. Issei groaned. I'm going to kill both of you someday, Issei said, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Oh. I know we brought you out of school today for this, but there is something you should know. Ravel is now at the school, Azazel said. Is she doing all right? She is new to the human world, so I would think she would have difficulties, Issei said, looking at Azazel. Let's go take a look. You guys go on ahead. Emma handled the show from here. Azazel, we already have our first toy ready for release. I can't wait. Show me when I return, yes? Of course. Hurry back. Wouldn't miss it. It was then Azazel transported Issei and him to a news room in the school. They left the room and began to walk down the halls together, heading to the classroom where Kaneko, Issei and Ravel would be in. Azazel and Issei stood outside the door of the room. A few moments later, Rias came over. Era Issei. You also came to see how she is doing? You too? Yes, I was a bit worried. In the classroom, Ravel was having a conversation with a couple other female students, and she seemed to be doing well. She was feeling slightly uncomfortable by the look on her face, but she was doing fine. She was able to handle herself. It was then Ravel caught Issei's and Rias's eyes. Azazel was gone. Ravel came over and grabbed onto Issei's and Rias's hand before taking them away around the corner. What's wrong, Ravel? It's my first time transferring to a school, so I don't know how to interact with everyone. I am a devil, so I can't find a topic to discuss with everyone who are humans, Ravel, with a red face, replied. You seem to be doing well, though, Rias said. Why, yes, but they are the ones engaging me. It isn't like you don't want to talk to them, right? Of course I do. Issei was thinking for a moment, and then he edged into his hand. I know. Kaneko can. Kaneko appeared next to him, clinging to his uniform sleeve on his left. Issei jumped a moment at this. Did you call me? How did you do that? I can always sense when someone comes near. How did you bypass my super sense? No answer. Anyways, Kaneko, I have a favor I want to ask of you. What is it? Ravel's talking pal. Well, I actually would like you to support her in her school lifestyle. I mean, I will help as well. But you are both girls, so I would think you would have more to talk about than just me. Please? Kaneko looked a bit displeased. She was twitching her eyebrows and her mouth was in the shape of a triangle. She was really cute. If you say that, then I don't mind. So it's like that, Ravel? Kaneko will help. Useless grilled chicken, Princess Kaneko said, talking over Issei. A moment of silence happened, but then veins appeared on Ravel's forehead. What did you just call me? Useless grilled chicken, Princess, Kaneko said slowly. It was then Ravel growled angrily and began to argue with Kaneko. Why you? To talk to the daughter from the House of Phoenix in such a manner? Since you talk in such manners, don't you become useless at crucial times? I thought you came to the human world with a strong resolve for you to trouble Issei, clueless grilled chicken princess. Ravel snapped. I didn't do anything to trouble Issei. This Nikomata. Grilled chicken. Issei had a look of fright on his face, so Issei quickly got in between them, who looked like both were ready to pounce. Hey! Both of you! Why are you two suddenly glaring at each other? Get along! You two are in the same class after all, Issei said, trying to calm them down. Now, calm down, Kaneko. Ravel, I am not troubled at all, so you two can talk to me as much as you want. Whose side are you on? Both of them asked at the same time. You are sure our kind Issei, Ria said with a grin. Issei turned to her and narrowed his eyes. You know you could come help me. I could, but this is a valuable training exercise for you for the future. Kaneko and Ravel went red in the face. What are you talking about? About 6 hours later, as it was a Friday, Rias, her peerage and Issei were all located in a high-class restaurant in the Gremry territory. They were here for an interview about the big fight that happens tomorrow with Serorg. It was a press conference between the two young devils who are very powerful. Issei was sitting on the sofa with Kaneko on his lap eating some cakes. It was expensive cakes too. Everyone else was busy looking in the mirrors and trying to make themselves better looking. Except Kiba. Kiba was reading a book in the corner like a high-class person. Issei was slightly nervous as he was never good with public things, and since this interview would have a small audience while being blasted across the world, Issei had a good reason to be worried. Issei then looked down at Kaneko while putting on a very worried and confused face. Kaneko, during school, when Issei returned, spent the entire time clinging to his uniform. She was acting very attached, and this got Issei a ton of dirty looks from the other males. Issei had Kaneko, Rias and Akino, the three great girls from the school. Of course he would be hated. Kaneko had a red face now, as she probably realized Issei was suspicious of her actions. Today the grilled chicken isn't here, so I want to be on Issei's lap. Akino smiled from her seat. Era. Looks like Kaneko thinks Ravel will take Issei away from her, Akino said, which got Issei embarrassed. Is that true? Issei asked timidly. Issei is too kind, so I get troubled many times because of it, Kaneko said with an unpleasant face. Well, I also think Kaneko is adorable as well, so don't be worried. Plus, aren't we kind of, you know? You shouldn't be worried, Issei said. Kaneko perked up quite a bit, though she still looked slightly unpleasant. Her tail and ears were always out when they were alone or in the underworld, and her tail was twitching back and forth happily. It was then a staff member came in and ushered everyone into the conference room. As they entered, there was even more of an audience than expected, which got Issei very nervous. He really hated public speaking. There was a banner above the table which stated, Serorg Bale vs. Rias Gremry. Rias took her seat in the middle, Akino at her right and Issei at her left. Kaneko took her seat on Issei's lap, which got the crowd to go, so this made Issei quite red in the face. Serorg was also located in this room at another table. The conference began and Issei was busy looking up at the ceiling, as if not paying attention. It was then Issei was called upon. I will ask Issei Hyoudou, aka Venomous or Breast Spider, who is very popular in the underworld, a question now. Issei heard this and his eye twitched a bit from what he was just called. Will you also be poking Princess Rias's breast this time as well? If you were to poke, then in what kind of situation would you poke them? This question had Issei twitching both of his eyes. Serzex and Azazel was going to kill him, with embarrassment. Rias was also red in the face while looking confused. Just like the hero program, Venomous, we received information that you power up by poking Princess Rias's. We also heard that you overcame many crises because of it? Rias looked at Issei with confused while her face was red. Issei decided to continue with the reporter. Habutchu. Butchu? Were you just about to say Butchu? So that means you will be sucking it like Butchu as in her breast? It was then the audience began to gasp and cheer and go oh. There were a ton of flashes from different cameras. Does that mean you will be sucking Princess Rias's breast? If you power up by poking, what will happen if you suck it? Will the underworld collapse? Princess Rias, please give us your comment regarding this. All the reporters kept firing questions. Rias was so red in the face, she placed her face in her hands. Akino was now blurting out with laughter, unable to contain herself. She was laughing so hard right now. Contender Serorg, what do you think? Serorg answers with a serious expression. Well, it would seem that Issei or Venomous will become insanely strong when he sucks Rias's breast. Oh! Issei was pinching the bridge of his nose. On his lap, Kaneko was also chuckling with a smile on her face, hearing all of this. I am going to kill those two, Issei said slowly. It was the end of the conference, and everyone was located in the hallway. Ha 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 ha. Serorg was laughing very lively. He, however, began to calm down. I'm sorry, but this saw just what I needed. I came into the hall while raising by fighting spirit, but you guys managed to relax me. Mao. Don't you also say something weird, Serorg? Rias said with a red face. She had tears in her eyes and she looked mad too. Ah, calm down. We didn't have a messy press conference, but we had one that will be talked about for a long time. I'm looking forward to the morning newspaper as well. Serorg turned to Issei with a smile. So this is what it is like to fight Venomous, the breast spider. I never thought we would have to compete even in the comments for the press conference. Yeah, Issei said slowly. It was then Rias turned to Issei. Issei, what is the meaning of all of this? What is going on? Rias said very angrily. Ask your brother. Ask the goddamn fallen angel. Issei yelled back, also angrily though not at her. He was pointing to the room next door where the two were busy planning the next show. Rias growled and stomped over to it. It was then Serorg turned to Issei. Tomorrow, let us meet on the battleground in the sky. Issei grinned. I plan on it. Bring your best, Serorg. I will. You better as well, Serorg said, leaving the room. Issei smirked and then looked over to the door where he heard the yelling from Rias. Akino was laughing again while Kaneko just giggled. Issei was just sighing while pinching the bridge of his nose. It was the early afternoon and Issei, Rias and her peerage were in the underworld, doing a Venomous show on stage. It was more of an appearance for the kids in the underworld. As it was early afternoon, they had about 9 hours before the rating games so they could do this. Plus, Kaneko could heal stamina as well after the show for everyone if they needed it. Hiya! Switch Princess! I need you! Issei called in his Venomous costume. He was on the ground from a bad guy. Help him switch! Yelled the children. Rias walked on stage and Issei poked her clothed breast, in which Issei roared while flexing his muscles. He also made his suit get thicker. Here I go, you evildoer! Ultimate spider kick! Spider kick! The children yelled out with him. As he kicked the enemy, a giant explosion occurred. The show ended with some fireworks and the children all cheered happily. Breast spider! All the children cheered. Issei was smiling under his suit. He actually was quite content with being a hero for the children. It made him smile, though he hated the fact he was known as a breast spider. Rias, Issei, Kaneko and Kiba all appeared on stage and gave waves to everyone. Men, women and children all around cheered out loudly, saying their respective names. It was now the end of the show and Issei was located behind the stage in the bathroom. He was washing his face from the sweat of doing some hard work, unlike the rest of the gang. He would be fine though, as he wasn't breathing hard or anything, but it was still sweaty work. Now it's time for the Ape Dragon Question Corner, announced a staff member. Yo! Hellcat! Yelled out a ton of men. It was apparent that she was popular amongst lowly loving men, though Issei was one of those. There were those who came to this show just to see her. Issei left the bathroom and began to head to the exit, wanting to meet up with the others as they prepared for the rating game. However, noisy voices caught his attention. He hid behind a wall, listening. Nuh! There was a child screaming. It was obvious he was upset. Issei poked his head out and watched. A young boy was with his mother, talking with a staff member. I want to meet Breast Spider. I want to meet Venomous. The child yelled out, stamping around and having a temper tantrum. The mother looked very worried and unsure what to do. I'm sorry, but the handshaking and autograph event has already finished, the staff member said. Is that so? He said. It's already finished, the mother said to her child, but the child began to cry even harder. He was holding onto a toy that looked just like Venomous, and when he squeezed it the mouth opened wide and it let out a roar that Issei was known to make in anger. No! The child shouted, tears running down all over his face. Issei frowned a bit and put on his suit again and walked out as the suit was wrapping around his body. He walked over to the group. Did something happen? Issei asked, though he already knew what was going on. The child missed getting a ticket for the event. There are a limit to how many can go. The staff member, child and the mother all turned at his voice. The child went from crying to super happy, smiling happily. It's Breast Spider. Ah, Issei. Well, this mother and child couldn't make it when the tickets were distributed. Issei nodded and got down on his knees. What is your name? Laurenkus. Laurenkus, I want to thank you for coming to see me. Do you have something to write with? Issei asked, turning his head to the staff member. Issei also began to put on the mask for the child. The member nodded and handed him a marker. Why, yeah. This cap, can I sign on it since it has a design of me? Issei asked, pointing to the cap on Laurenkus's head. The child quickly nodded his head down 3 times. Issei began to write his name, Venomous, aka Breast Spider, on the cap. He then smiled and rubbed the head of the child, putting the cap on his head. The child had a very bright face on. Thank you very much. His mother said her thanks, giving Issei a big smile. Issei put his head on Laurenkus's head. Laurenkus, men should not cry. You have to become strong, alright? You have to protect girls no matter how many times you fall, and you must keep standing up. That is what it means to be a man, Issei said with a big smile. Issei got up, bowed to everyone and began to leave with the staff member. Issei, please restrain from doing things like this. It is impossible to deal with everyone, so we can't make exceptions. You can't, but I can. This is my show, Issei said with a very defiant grin. The staff member stood frozen as Issei walked away, his face confused. As Issei turned the corner, Rias was there waiting against the wall. As expected from my Issei, you looked amazing. You were a bit careless, but you were still able to protect that child's dream, Rias said, patting his cheek before leaning over to him on the. Issei leaned over and at her back, both of them giving each other a full of passion and love. Alright, well, it is time to meet up with the others. We have a game to win. Issei nodded and they both left together. It was time for the rating game. They were all transported to a humongous dome, meant for a very quick fight. Begin! It was the beginning of the match, and Issei already ran ahead. He was heading straight to Serorg. There was an unofficial declaration of battle after all. However, it seemed his servants are going to stand in the way as they were preparing a defense. Issei quickly leapt into the air and spun a giant spider web, separate the Gremry group from the other side. They were trapped on their side. However, it was not the intention of Issei to keep them away. It has another purpose. Issei began to fire many web lines, sticking them onto Serorg's servants and slinging them over into his web. It was over in 20 seconds. Issei leapt from his web and let out a laugh. It looks like this is a sticky situation, Issei said with a grin. He was dressed in his suit from the beginning, though he now lowered his mask. And out from the start of the match, it looks like Serorg is in a very sticky situation, though he has another servant left. But Venomous has kept his allies behind the web. What is he doing? Serorg let out a big laugh. So, this is the power of Venomous. I am very impressed, but you still have me to fight and I will not go down easy. I didn't expect you to. Didn't you also say you wanted to fight me? I did. I am glad you remembered, Serorg said. Then let us begin, Serorg roared out. He came at Issei with enormous speed, but Issei tracked him. Serorg appeared in front and sent a giant fist forward, but Issei just sent his fist forward, both of them striking each other in the face. Issei's fist created a small shockwave. Issei was sent skidding back a few feet, but Sarorg was sent flying across the battlefield, skidding across the battlefield. His face was bleeding and it looked shattered. It was then Sarorg pulled out Phoenix tears and repaired his face. "Damn that power, you are beyond me," Sarorg said, almost defeated. It was then his other servant opened his mask. It was a lion's head. "Master! Use me! Please wear me! If it's me, then you can fight with the breast spider. Are you trying to throw away this match? Close your mouth. That is the power I decided to only use during a crisis in the underworld. I will fight this man, only with this body." "You are an idiot, Sarorg," Issei said, his mask on. "What? You are an idiot. Why are you not using all your power?" I am using this alien symbiotic organism most of the time. It allows me to be able to protect my friends. Don't you want this to be a match worth remembering? Use it! Use the power of the lion. Let me taste what the fist of the lion tastes like." "You really are stupid!" shouted out Rias and Aquino. "What are you doing, Issei?" Kaneko, Asia and Zenobia shouted. Kiba looked at him and smiled. Issei ignored all of them though. There is no meaning to fighting like men unless they give it their all. There is no point if you do not give it your all. Use all the power that is given to you as it is yours. Be proud of the power you have. Are we not fighting for our dreams? My dream is to have Rias win. But isn't yours to become Mao? How can you become Mao if you do not show them that you are willing to bring your all to accomplish your goals? Issei said with pride. He knew Sarorg wanted to be a Mao. He was told by Rias. Sarorg let out a big smile. "I am sorry, somewhere inside my heart I thought that this was only a game, that there will be a second chance. I was naive and foolish," Sarorg said softly before he got filled up with fighting spirit. "I am angry for myself for not realizing what this fight actually means. I won't even get a fight like this ever again." "Regulus." "Sir." The lion guy came out and began to glow. It glowed bright golden and it jumped onto Sarorg. "Then let us do it. I have determined today that this will be a stage for a battle to the death. Do not hold a grudge against me if I kill you, Issei Hyoudou. Let us fight like men," Sarorg said loudly. "My lion! King of Nemia! You has been called the King of Lions. Answer my howl and turn into an armor." The field shook like an earthquake. His servants were no longer struggling against the web, just watching from afar. However, Issei turned his hand back and sucked the webbing back into his body, letting his servants go. "Balance break! Balance break!" Sarorg appeared in a golden-colored plate armor, with a motif of a lion. It was gorgeous. Regulus Ray Leather Rex, the balance breaker of the Regulus Nemia. Issei, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for making me serious. I can see why all of those girls fell for you. That is why I shall reward you with my fist. Come at me, Venomous. Issei and Sarorg ran at each other and sent their fists outward. Both of their fists collided with each other and formed a massive shockwave, breaking apart the ground below them for 100 feet all around, though it was only a foot deep, forming a massive crater. It was then they began to bash each other in the face, sending fist after fist at each other. "It's a fist fight," Azazel commented. He was the arbiter. An incredible fist fight is occurring at the center of the field. It doesn't have any tactics, it isn't a fight of fine-tuned demonic powers. It is a close-range fight like a children's brawl. They hit and they get hit. They don't ever seem to be blocking each other. It is a fight of strength and endurance. It's so incredibly simple, it's awesome. The viewers are all standing. Both old and young. Both man and woman. Everyone is excited. Two powerhouses are just swinging at each other, wanting to best the other. It is a fight of god-level strength. It was a fight between Sarorg and Issei. The lion versus the spider. Two young devils with powers to rival gods. Issei was not using any sort of super tactic of dodging. He was just having a fist fight. His teeth of his venomous mouth were gone, and he was actually leaking blood from his mouth. This was never happening before. Sarorg was also bleeding heavily from his nose, though his teeth were fine. His mouth was also bleeding. Why is he doing this? Rias asked, confused. Why isn't he fighting him like he fights everyone else? Because they are two hot-blooded males. It is a fight for dominance. A fist fight to the death. They both want to show each other up in their strength and endurance. It is something only men do, Kiba explained. I get it, they are friends and rivals, Ria said. She nodded, understanding. She and her servants were standing alongside the servants of Serorg. Both knew not to interrupt the fight. Issei's suit began to fall apart, and it finally receded back into his body. He was no longer able to keep up the armor. Issei, however, kept on fighting, though when he prepared a fist to punch Serorg, a voice stopped him. Venomous, it is all right now. The lion spoke from Serorg's. My master. Serorg has, the lion was shedding tears. Serorg? It was then Issei noticed that Serorg wasn't there. He wasn't awake. He was unconscious. He already lost his consciousness. Issei stood up straight. Even so, he was happy. He kept on going forward as if he felt overjoyed. He just went on straight ahead. Because he was truly enjoying the fight while having his dream on the lion, he really enjoyed the fight he had with you. The lion stated. Issei nodded, and that is when he collapsed to the ground, consciousness leaving him as the adrenaline receded. Serorg Bale loses. He retires. This is the end of the game. Rias Gremmy team's victory, Azazel said. The stadium went loud with cheers. It was the morning after the raiding game with Serorg. Issei was sound asleep, alone, in his bed. He was sleeping peacefully, his body a bit bruised and worn out since he had an all-out punching war with Serorg, who could hit just as hard as he could. Issei could have easily beaten Serorg if Issei used the powers of the spider, but Issei wanted to see who was the strongest in terms of power. In the end, Issei barely came out on top. Issei would have lost with 1 or 2 more punches, but Serorg lost. Issei respected Serorg for becoming so strong without any powers at all. It was amazing how hard Serorg trained to become strong, without any sort of demonic powers. Granted, they would only could have that fight because Serorg also carried a powerful sacred gear. A Longinus. Regulus Remia. Due to this, they could have a fight for life to see who could beat who in a display of manly power. Just like Toxic, Regulus enhances the power of the wearer, so perhaps they could fight for eternity, trying to one-up each other. Issei began to awaken from his slumber, even though the room was dark. It was just time for him to get up. As he awoke, he found himself alone in his bed for once. This worried him because he was always used to sleeping with one of the girls, while actually he slept with 4 of them, since Kaneko joined in recently, so Issei was quite worried about the situation. Issei decided to get out of bed and check the kitchen, hoping to find out what was going on. Issei arrived at the kitchen to find it empty as well. Kiba wasn't here, nobody was. It was quiet and peaceful for once. Issei went over to the fridge and found a note on the fridge door, so he ripped it off and began to read it. Hey Issei, if you are reading this, then Akino, Kiba and I have left for the underworld. We have some business to take care of due to the raiding game, which thank you so much by the way. We do not know when we will be back, so please take care. I love you. Signed. Rias. Zoxo. Issei put the note onto the counter and shrugged. Alrighty, I have the house to myself, it is time to watch porn. Issei yelled out, trying to see if anyone was in the house. No one said anything or replied. The house was quiet. Issei shrugged and opened the fridge, standing right there looking at the fridge, which was stocked full of food. He just eyed everything, looking around. Ugh, there is never anything to eat, Issei said. He sighed and went back upstairs, getting dressed in a new pair of clothes, since he took a shower the night before, right after the game. About 20 minutes later, Issei was walking downtown in Tokyo, taking the day to himself. He headed over to a nearby maid cafe. He got seated in the far corner, away from everyone else. It was a humongous booth as no one was here. It was vacant, but it was also around 10 a.m. and breakfast was almost over. Issei quickly ordered a nice glass of orange juice. The lady left, and about a minute later, Azazel and a little girl entered the door. Issei raised a brow, seeing Azazel. As if Azazel knew someone was staring at him, he turned his attention over towards Issei, and there was visible surprise in his eyes. Azazel motioned for the girl to follow, and they both made their way towards Issei's booth. Upon their arrival, Azazel and Issei shared a smile. Wow, kinda funny seeing you here. We were planning to come see you today after breakfast. Really? Who is we? Issei asked, looking over at the female. This is Ophis. I see, who is that exactly? She is the dragon god, the infinite dragon. I see, why did you want to meet me? Because she wants to meet you. Azazel, who is this chick and why do you look nervous? Issei asked, sensing the fear in Azazel's tone and facial expression. Do you not know who Ophis is for real? Azazel asked. Not a clue, but sit down, sit down. I believe the lady will come back to take my order. Both of you, come get something to eat. My treat, Issei said, motioning to the seat across the table. They both took their seats and began to look through the menus. The lady arrived and smiled after giving Issei the orange juice. Hello, my name is Linda. I shall be taking your order. Issei smiled and ordered a big breakfast. He ordered French toast with bacon, sausage, biscuits and gravy, and eggs. It was a big breakfast. Ophis ordered a simple eggs with bacon and sausage while Azazel ordered just a coffee. The lady nodded and took their orders for drinks, which was just water, and left. So, who is she? You seem quite afraid of revealing her identity. Yes, well, she is the leader of the Cows Brigade, Azazel said, bowing his head. I see, and let me ask you another question. Did you consider I may kill her or Satan would? I thought you would be quite forgiving and knowledgeable about the situation. Well, I have no interest in killing her. I will shut down Cows Brigade in time. I would also rather not kill if I don't have to. I've already have so much blood on my hands, Issei said with a sigh. So, what is the reason you would bring her around here? She wanted to meet you, Azazel said with a relieved tone. She wanted to meet with Venomous. I see, Issei said, looking over at Ophis. So, what did you want to talk about? What are you? You are nothing that this world has ever seen or experienced. There are many dragons, many swordsmen, but Venomous there is only you. What are you? Ophis questioned. Issei laughed. What am I? I don't know exactly, but if you want to know how I got this way, a sentient alien substance found its way to Earth. It bonded with me and we became one and the same. Due to a nuclear accident, we are fused and we cannot get rid of each other, but who I am isn't important. It is what I do that is, Issei said with a smile. It was then their breakfast arrived and Issei began to dig in. He devoured his delicious breakfast as Ophis also ate hers, though she was doing it with grace. Azazel just finished his meal and got out of the booth. Going somewhere? Issei asked after he swallowed a piece of French toast. Yes, I think I will leave her in your care for today. I would like to see the city. Okay. Have fun. Issei waved. I am a Mao, you know, Issei said, smirking. I think I could have some pull it comes to it. Enjoy the town. I shall take care of Ophis. Thanks, Issei. You really are a great guy. Shut up, baby, I know it, Issei said with a joking smile. Azazel rolled his eyes and looked at Ophis. Behave okay? Ophis didn't say anything as she just ate the eggs. Azazel left the diner and went away. Azazel was now walking around the town, heading deeper and deeper into town. As he turned the corner to head to the nearby mall, he was almost hit by someone, a head-on collision. It was Irina. Irina was startled at the appearance of Azazel. Oh well, hey there, Angel, Azazel said with a grin. Azazel, Irina said. Her face had a kind of depressed look to it. She was not looking very happy. You alright there, Irina? Azazel asked. You can talk to me, you know. I know I can, I'm lost, Azazel. Lost? Is this about Issei? Azazel wondered. It was then Irina's face blushed deep and dark. Azazel was right on the money and he smiled. He motioned over to a nearby park and they both walked. Talk to me. I will help you the best I can. Issei was downstairs in the training room, sitting on top of a web hammock he put in the corner farthest from the elevator. It wasn't high up in the ceiling, but it was high enough where he had 3 feet of space between him and the floor when he laid down on it. He was currently reading a book which was Lord of the Flies. A fantastic older book about kids on an island. It was a good book. It was a good movie too. Unknown to him, a figure had arrived in the training room and was walking towards him. Recently, Issei has figured out that his spider sense isn't perfect. It only senses danger but not people itself, so if the person had any intent to harm him, it would give him the warning. It also seemed that he lost some sensitivity to his surroundings when he fused with the symbiote, so he was not very attuned to the air currents like real spiders are, but Issei was so much stronger than before. If Issei fought Loki again, Loki would have lost even without the environment. Issei had grown stronger. Issei was startled when he felt the hammock move and felt an enormous pair of press against his side and 2 arms wrapped around his shoulders. Issei turned his head quickly and jumped a bit at the appearance of Kuroka, who snuck up on him. His heart raced from the scare, and he placed his hand over his heart, taking a deep breath. Damn it, Kuroka. Don't do that. You scared me. That was the intention, Naya. Issei struggled a bit in her grasp, seeing she wouldn't let go willingly. Is there something you want, Kuroka? Nyan, would you make babies with me? Kuroka asked seductively. Excuse me? Issei asked, surprised. Naya, I want to make babies with you. Issei raised a brow. And why would you want to make babies with me? Why would you want children right now anyway? Naya, does a girl really have to explain herself in order to get some? Issei groaned and rubbed the bridge of his nose, not really sure how to deal with this. Issei just started to ignore her, going to read his book instead. Kuroka, in response to the silent treatment, began to his hand, looking up at his face trying to get his attention. Issei's bottom lip began to tremble as the experienced black cat used her tongue to skillfully pleasure him. He hated to admit it, but he was very turned on. Unknown to the pair, there was a figure standing in the corner closest to the elevator, so across the room from Issei and Kuroka. It was Kuniko, and she was listening and watching the pair interact. Issei groaned and pushed Kuroka away from him before climbing out of the hammock. He quickly stood up and shuddered a bit, getting the feeling of her tongue off of his body. Kuroka smiled seductively as she laid in the hammock in an erotic position. She was on her back, legs slightly parted with her head looking up at him. Naya, Venomy, you like to play hard to get, huh? Issei sighed and looked at Kuroka. Why are you doing this with me? Last time I checked, you and I didn't get along. Naya, that was the past. I have no interest in taking Chiron with me. Why? Why aren't you anymore? She seems to be in good care, Kuroka said, sitting up now, a bit more serious. I can tell she has become a woman as of recent. Issei blushed. What do you mean by that? She has slept with a man, Naya. What else could I be saying? Only way to become truly a woman is to sleep with a man. I wouldn't know anything about that, Issei said, trying to deny his involvement in deflowering the young Nikomata. I'm not angry. She looks happy. I am happy that she is happy and living a good life, Kuroka said, though her face kind of got a bit less happy and a bit sad for a few seconds before she went back to her normal happy face. Then yes, I have slept with her. She took mine and I took hers, Issei said, rubbing the back of his head nervously. Naya, I knew it. So was she good? I don't think I should be discussing that with her sister. Whatever, Nyan. So wanna make babies with me? Kuroka, what happened? What do you mean, Nyan? Why did you kill your master? Why is it this happened in the first place? For a girl who cares about her sister, you put her through a lot. I have a hard time understanding this. He was a detestable bastard, Kuroka said, no longer smiling. She had a very serious face on. Unknown to Issei, a figure was standing in the elevator, leaning against the side as he listened to the conversation. It was Valet. He just stood there, waiting patiently. Biko was also there, listening though he was out of the elevator and standing in the middle of the room, wanting to hear more. Why? Issei asked. I was getting to that. Me and Chiron are a special type of Nikomata. We are Nekishu. We have powers stronger than any other Nikomata. We can become one of the strongest in the entire world if we trained hard enough. What does this have to do with anything? I was getting to that. My old master took too much interest in our powers. If asked, Chiron would have used her powers and would have went berserk. She is an honest girl after all. Issei nodded, finally getting the picture. He began to suspect something, but Kuroka confirmed it with what she would say next. He focused on increasing the ability of his servants, and he would do it forcefully. Having his servants go through things is one thing, but he also tried to forcefully strengthen his servants' family. You saved her, didn't you? The reason why you try and take her away from me because I was a threat to her in terms of releasing her power? Kuroka nodded. That was the original intent, but I can see that she is doing fine with her powers. You are protecting her, aren't you? Yes, of course I am. I love Kaneko a lot, and I would do anything for her. I would die for her if I had to. Kuroka put out a smile, a happy smile. Then I am very happy to leave my Chiron in your care, Issei. Kuroka said, finally saying his name. Issei smiled, finally understanding the female in front of him. Kuroka was a bad kitty. She was a naughty kitty, but she cared for her sister greatly. She would do anything for her, even cause trouble with the devils. Issei no longer held any sort of anger or resentment towards her. He forgave her. Kaneko was in the corner, looking down at her feet as tears filled her eyes. All this time she hated her sister because of what she did for her. Even though she suffered because of what Kuroka did, it was then Biko came over and stood next to Kaneko. Something the matter, kid? Kaneko was surprised and looked up at Biko, wiping the tears from her eyes. She quickly looked away, not really sure if she should be associating with the Vala team, minus her sister. Biko let out a laugh. Vala put on his armor and charged at Issei, fist extended. Issei had his back to him, and just as Vala got closer and closer, his fist almost hitting Issei, Issei did a quick backflip over Vala, landing on his feet. You're quick as always, Hyoudou, Vala said with joy. So you want a spar? You know you cannot hope to beat me on your own. Biko grinned and walked over. That is why he isn't alone. I hope you don't mind, of course. Not at all. Nyan, I don't want to miss the party, Kuroka said, getting up and standing next to Vala as Biko was behind Issei. Issei smirked and cracked his neck quickly before summoning his suit onto his body. He grinned his vicious toothy grin and cracked his knuckles. I don't mind at all. Shall we go all out? Of course not to the death, but close? You read my mind, Vala said. Azazel wandered into the training room, noticing the commotion. He walked over to Kaneko and stood next to her, before looking down at her. You all right? Azazel asked. Yes. I just heard something from my sister is all. How about you go help her then? Azazel said, motioning towards the battle that would happen here soon. I'm sure Issei would need some serious senjutsu when he is done, Azazel said, giving her a wink. Kaneko blushed, but her eyes had a slight lecherous spark in them. She walked away from Azazel towards the others. Then let us begin, Issei said, opening his mouth wide and roaring out to the heavens. Vala went first, striking at Issei with a wild haymaker. Issei used left hand and moved his strike upwards, before using his right fist to strike right into the side of Vala, striking his right ribs. The armor cracked around the strike point about 1 inch wider than Issei's hand in all directions before shattering. Issei then quickly swung his left foot out and tripped Vala before grabbing onto the staff of Biko, which was sent vertically down on his head. Issei held the staff and used it to throw Biko away from him, staff and all, into a nearby wall. Kuroka attacked from behind, leaping onto Issei's back and holding his arms tightly behind his back. Issei grinned at this, seeing her attempting to hold his superior strength at bay. Issei stood there, watching Vala and them get up, as he began to flex his arms, showing off the strength that Issei held in his muscles. Kuroka's eyes were going wide as she saw her own strength being dwarfed by Issei's. It was then Issei was struck in the solar plexus with a powerful strike, before feeling a different pain of his insides burning as a secondary effect. Issei looked down and noticed that it was Kaneko. Kaneko hit him with a senjutsu punch. Issei was looking down at Kaneko, no longer fighting against Kuroka, as he was extremely shocked to see her attacking him. It was then he felt Kuroka get off before a powerful punch from Vala sent him flying across the room into a wall, cracking the wall with the insane power of the dragon. Issei was on his hands and knees on the floor, still shocked, but he let out a smile. He understood now. Kaneko was helping her sister. Kaneko heard everything they talked about. Issei stood up and joined his fingers together before cracking them, signaling that he was now back in the game. Issei charged towards the 4 opponents of his, ducking under a blast of power from Kuroka before leaping over Biko's staff extension poke. Issei landed on top of Vala's shoulders before sliding down his back, hooking Vala's head in Issei's armpit, which slammed Vala onto the ground. Issei used his webbing and shot it on the ceiling, shooting up into the air as he dodged a powerful blast from Kuroka before coming back down right in front of Kuroka. Kuroka went into hand-to-hand combat and sent out a palm fused with senjutsu energy and attempted to strike Issei in the. Issei, however, shot out some webbing right onto her hand, covering her hand in the black material before sliding under her legs and forcing her to do a front flip onto her back. Issei got up from his stance only to be struck in the side by Kaneko. Issei cringed in pain from the senjutsu strike, seeing how powerful it truly was. It would hurt from the initial strike, but it hurt him on the inside. Issei looked around and spotted Kaneko, who was attempting to punch him again, but he grabbed her outstretched arm and threw her right into Kuroka, who was getting up, sending them both to the ground. Issei dodged a right hook from Vala before grabbing onto both of his hands and leaping up into the air, kneeing him right in the faceplate, shattering it instantly, including his entire helmet. His nose began to bleed and blood seeped from his mouth. Damn it. How the hell is Kaneko doing this? I can't even sense her attacks. Why am I unable to sense the danger from her attacks? Issei used one hand and gripped the staff of Biko before thrusting it into him, striking Biko in the gut with his own staff before tossing Biko away. Issei leapt backwards and finally got a view of all four of his opponents. Kaneko and Kuroka were up, and Kuroka was whispering into Kaneko's ear. Biko was up again and Vala was up with a repaired faceplate. He was also listening to the conversation with Kuroka, as was Biko. They were all huddled, but it seemed the current thing was for Kaneko. Issei narrowed his eyes, not liking the fact that his Kaneko was against him in this fight. It hurt him that he would have to take her down in this spar. He didn't want to lose. It was then Toxic appeared. Ha! Quite a dilemma. Well, it seems there is a weakness of ours. Senjutsu is hurting us a lot more than what a demonic power or an angelic power would. This is something strange. We didn't have this back in our planet. What is this senjutsu? I'm not sure. It has to do something with ki. Something to do with life force. It can disrupt and sever the life force. Now I see. So if we aren't a real god with immortal properties, then this ability would hurt us. Interesting. You may have god strength and god defense, but you are unable to fight against the senjutsu because you are not immortal like a god. While nothing is truly immortal, the gods of this world have some defense against senjutsu. This is strange. Well, good luck with your spar. Haha. Issei was distracted by Toxic, so he was startled when he saw the staff come for the side of his head in a swing. Issei ducked under the staff only to be grabbed from behind by Vala. Vala held him from behind as Kuroka hit him in the side with a senjutsu punch while Kaneko hit him on his other side. Damn it! They are working together this time. Fine. Issei shot out webbing towards the opposite wall before sending him and Vala across the room. Biko was smacked by the body of Issei, sending Biko to the floor as Vala held on tight. Issei, however, stopped himself by using his webbing on the ceiling and turning his body so Vala was slammed into the ceiling. Vala still held on. Issei, however, used his superior strength to flex his arms out, before using his right leg and kicked at the side of Vala's right knee, sending Vala to the ground. Issei ducked under a blast of senjutsu by Kuroka before shooting two webs into the right hand of Kaneko and the left hand of Kuroka, yanking them over to him. He then webbed Kuroka's left hand and Kaneko's right hand together before sliding under the bridge of their arms and sending them to the ground in a flip. As they didn't want their arms broken, Kuroka and Kaneko did not fight the actions of Issei, which could have broken their arms if they resisted it. Broken bones were nothing to devils, of course, but it could still hamper their fighting. Issei got up and grabbed the staff of Biko before pulling Biko right into Issei's. Issei smiled a very toothy grin. Biko looked at him afraid before Issei kneed him in the gut before tossing Biko into a corner of the room. It was then Issei felt a light weight on his shoulders. It was Kaneko. She had hooked her legs around his neck, putting pressure on his neck as she began to send rapid senjutsu punches into the side of his head. He then felt a punch into his back, this one with a super powerful senjutsu punch. Kuroka hit him in the back. Kaneko was dulling his senses with her attacks. Her senjutsu punches were dulling his spider senses. He couldn't sense enemy attacks. It was then he felt the light weight jump off of him, but then he saw why. A bright white light came right at him, striking his entire body. It was a dragon shot by Vala. Issei was sent flying from the attack, his suit completely destroyed. What? How did that shot destroy my suit? Damn it! Those senjutsu punches are making my defenses weaker. Shit! Issei reformed his suit before grabbing onto Biko's staff before sending it into his nose, bloodying Biko's nose. Issei charged at Vala, sending a wild haymaker towards Vala's face, But it was then he disappeared and was switched with Kaneko. Kaneko was in front of Issei's fist. Issei, however, moved his fist to the side, avoiding punching her, but Kaneko put her foot out and stumbled him. As he tried to regain his footing, he was clotheslined by a valet before a senjutsu blast hit him in the face. Issei's vision went black for a moment, but now everything was blurry. The last thing he saw before he blacked out was Kaneko's fist smashing him in the middle of his face. Issei had lost the sparring match. While he was stronger than them all together, the fact that Kaneko could attack without alerting Issei's senses was the reason he fell. The first senjutsu strike was all it took. Senjutsu was Issei's bane. Issei raised a brow, not exactly sure why the word especially was emphasized. Yes, of course I would, but Rias is here and there are other people who can look after her better than I could. Yes, of course, by trusting my daughter to Rias and everyone else, then she would have no trouble at the school, but what I would like to ask of you is different from that. Will you please protect her so no weird pests would come near her? By having the legendary Venomous next to her, then both my husband and I can feel assured. I understand I don't really know what is going on, but I will protect your daughter, Issei said. The lady smiled happily. Ravel was blushing as well now, blushing heavily. I thank you very much, Ravel. Yes, mother? You know what you must do, right? You have to support Rias and listen to your seniors. On top of that, you need to deepen your relationship with Issei. As the daughter from the House of Phoenix, work very hard so you don't tarnish the name of our house, okay? Of course. Azazel smirked. I believe their relationship is already quite deep, Lady Phoenix. Azazel! Issei roared, glaring at the damn fallen angel. Really? Oh, now I can see it. Well, I am certainly happy then. Issei, my daughter is all yours. Issei froze up, blinking quite a bit now after hearing Ravel's mother basically give Ravel to him. He wasn't exactly sure what to say or do, so he just froze up. Ravel's mother's face disappeared and Issei finally began to run again, his brain finally unfrozen. He glared at Azazel, who just gave him a big grin. You sure have quite a lot of options, don't you? Issei kept glaring at Azazel, Issei about ready to pounce on the damn fallen angel. However, he closed his eyes and breathed in for a few seconds before breathing out. He went upstairs for about 2 minutes before coming down with his socks and shoes on. I'm going out, I need some time alone, Issei said, disappearing out the front door. Azazel began to laugh as Issei left. Ah, he is so much fun, Azazel said before walking away. Ravel was blushing still, unable to respond to the fact that she was given to Issei. Issei walked out of the house and ended up at the movies. He paid for a ticket to see a new monster movie that just came out a week ago. He went inside, grabbed a drink and some popcorn and took a seat in the theater. The movie lasted for 2.5 hours. Issei went to the arcade afterwards, spending about an hour there before going to the park. He laid down on the grass under the large cherry blossom tree and began to fall asleep, taking a nap under the small rays of the sun which came through the tree's branches and leaves. Issei began to dream now, which was no longer a dream. It started out as a normal day in which he was basically doing what he just did today minus the nap. Instead of the nap, he went to the roller skating rink and roller skated. 6 hours after he left the house, he went back to his home, opening the door only to find the living room, the kitchen and the hallway in a gigantic mess. Issei's eyes went wide as he rushed through the house, searching in all the rooms. There was blast marks all around the house, claw marks as well, and that was when he found a note. As you ruined my life, you piece of shit spider, I am going to ruin yours. Thanks for the lovely gifts. These delicious women will be such a great asset to my collection. Sincerely, a friend. It was then Issei snapped awake, shooting straight up, panting. He shook his head from the thoughts, knowing that they were safe. They were strong women and plus Azazel was there. He sighed and stood up and made his way home, walking a bit faster than usual. Issei opened his front door, and he was almost hit with a sword. It was Kiba! Kiba thrusted a sword of ice right at Issei's head, in which Kiba looked shocked. Oh Issei, I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else. Issei looked around the house and noticed the house was destroyed. The kitchen, the living room, the hallways. It all looked the same as his dream. What happened? Issei said, looking really worried. Rias ran over and she had tears in her eyes. She had fear as well in her eyes. They took her, they took Ophis and Kaneko. They took her. They took Ophis and Kaneko, Rias yelled, her eyes filled with tears and fear. Issei was taken aback as fear entered his body. Kaneko was taken? Ophis was taken? Who? Why? Where? How? What happened? His mind began to race with fear as he began to imagine so many different scenarios, all of which were terrible. Rape, murder, torture, abuse. Never seeing them again, everything raced through his mind, and it took his name being called 5 times for him to wake up. Issei looked at Rias and looked around, before narrowing his eyes as fear became a second thought and rage entered his mind. Who took them, Rias? How did this happen? Issei said, clenching his fists. The Cows Brigade. They came back with their leaders and they took them easily. The 4 each had strength beyond ours and they waited for Azazel and the Vala team to leave. They knew the whole time. I'm so sorry, Issei, Rias said, lowering her head in apology. Issei hissed a bit, not at Rias or any of the others, but at the bastards who would dare lay a hand on his kitty or his nice dragon friend. How dare any of them take what was his? Kaneko was his, damn it. She took his virginity. They had a special bond. Issei clenched his teeth in rage, his fists balled into fists. He was angry. No one liked when Issei angry. Issei smash. It was then a black magic circle appeared and out came a piece of paper. Rias grabbed the piece of paper and began to read it as Issei was busy in his world of anger. About 10 seconds later, Rias grabbed Issei by his left shoulder and handed him the note. Issei grabbed it in rage and began to read it, speed reading it. Hello there. I seem to have taken 2 of your dear friends. Oh dearie me. I only meant to take 1. Ah well, I suppose this works out of my advantage. So, you want them back, yes? Well, it's simple really. I want Venomous. Only him. Anyone else follows and the cat dies slowly, painfully. If you come alone, my dear spider friend, she will be returned unharmed. I have no interest in harming the kitten, but if I don't get what I want, well, my interests will change. You will come to your old house Venomous, back in Tokyo. If you are alone, I will give you further instructions. You have 1 hour to comply. If you do not meet this demand, interests will change. Have a good day. Signed. Your best friend in the Cows Brigade. Issei read the note once again, a growl coming from his. It was animalistic and full of rage. Issei? What are you going to do? Does it look like we have a choice, Rias? I am going alone to get back my friends. No one takes my stuff, Issei said, walking over towards the key bowl and grabbing the keys to his viper. Issei, please get them back, Rias said, looking at Issei with concern. You know I will. They will not get away with taking my stuff, Issei said before leaving the house and jogging over to his viper in the garage. He climbed into the viper and quickly started it up, zooming away. The beast of a car moved like a dream. When Issei left, Rias frowned unhappily. She has stolen Issei away from me, Rias said. My kitten has stolen his heart, Rias said, slightly disappointed. Akino walked over to her and gave her a hug. Yes, I know she did, but he loves us too, you know. I know, I just wished I was the one who was mostly in his heart. We all do, Akino assured. We now just wait for the safe return of them. Issei zoomed through the streets, going around traffic as he sped away. He was going 120 miles an hour through the streets, dodging traffic and the street lights. He somehow made it through every single light, ending up at his old home in 10 minutes. He pulled into the large yard in the back, parking the car under the large tent. He climbed out of the car, didn't even lock it as he rushed into his house, seeing that the back door was wide open. As he arrived, he walked into the living room, hearing the chatter. There were 4 different voices, all male, talking about their plans for the future of the world. As Issei arrived in the living room, he spotted Ophis sitting in the corner with her arms binded by some black chains, her arms also binded. Her mouth was also shut with some kind of magical bind. Kaneko was sitting on the floor, her mouth covered by a bandana that was wrapped around her mouth. Kaneko noticed Issei there, and her eyes filled with tears. She began to mumble through the bandana, unable to get Issei to hear her clearly. I'm here as you requested, Issei said, controlling his anger. He had to get Kaneko out of here safely. And you did just what I wanted. Well done, said one of the men. It was a tall young man with a well-built body. He had no facial hair, but he did have a nice crew cut. His hair was snow white, whiter than Kaniko's. He snapped and looked over at his allies. Leave. Get the plans started now. Of course. Do you want us to wait before we give word to our ally? Said one of the other men. This one was short and had black hair with a goatee and a simple clean mustache. Yes. Wait 20 minutes, then send word to our ally to begin his attack. However, we can start our own attack immediately if you wish. Or you can wait 10 minutes. Either way. Just get it done. Of course, said the short man. The three men disappeared in a flash of bright green light, disappearing for good. The leader looked back at Issei and smiled, standing up. Ah, Venomous. It really is a pleasure to meet you. I arrived just like you said. Give Kaniko back to me. Ah, well, I changed my mind. I think I will take this one with me. She looks quite delectable, don't you think? The man said, the back of Kaniko's neck, in which she shuddered and tried to move away, but the man had quite a grip on her shoulders. You bastard! Don't you dare lay a hand on her. Release her now. My, aren't we getting forceful? Well, I don't like your attitude very much. If you wish to have her, well, you have to take her, of course, the man said, snapping his fingers. A portal appeared behind him and he grabbed Kaniko by her shirt and lifted her up, taking the chain of Ophis in the other hand before walking backwards into the portal. Issei charged right into the man, smashing his face with his right fist before yanking Kaniko out of his grasp. Issei tossed her out of the portal, back into his old home. Issei quickly put on his venomous suit before looking back at Kaniko. Go back to Rias, Kaniko. Tell Rias that something is wrong. Kaniko finally freed her binds on her wrists and removed the gag. Issei. He is trying to destroy the underworld. His friends, his ally, and he is trying to destroy the underworld. He wants to completely destroy the entire underworld and heaven. Ophis is also part of his plans. I will stop him, Kaniko. Don't you worry. He will regret everything, Issei said, running farther into the portal, just as it closed. Issei ran along a large rocky bridge, heading towards Ophis and the man. They were inside some kind of void. It was filled with many colors, like he was looking into a kaleidoscope. Issei spotted the two flying in the air, floating. The man was smiling, and was just waiting for him. As he approached, two skeletons with cloaks appeared from black magic circles. They were both carrying some kind of scythe as well, and they had hoods on. The hoods only had a back so Issei could see their front, which was skeletal. Ah, good, I have some reinforcements. I was kind of worried for a moment my plan was going to be difficult, but it seems Hades really wants to do this, the man said with a smile. The man released Ophis into the hands of the two skeletons, floating closer to Issei, who finally came near. Hades? The Greek god of the underworld? Yes, the same. See, Hades does not like you devils or the angels of the fallen angels. You guys are too noisy for him. He has always hated your kind. Well, while we are also devils, he is working with us to get rid of you. It seems only you devils in the current underworld piss him off. Isn't that wonderful? Such a powerful ally we have. Well, enough of the small talk. Let us begin, the man said. My name is Cursius Beelzebub. A pleasure to meet you, the man said with a big smile, snapping his fingers. A loud roar was heard out of nowhere, sounding like no monster of this world. It sounded like it was in pain and full of rage and hatred. Coming from a black magic circle was some kind of man on a cross. It had the wings of a fallen angel, the lower body of a snake, and the torso and head of a man. It was nailed to a cross with many nails, and there were many seals spread across its body. It was bleeding all over, and it looked like it was in pain. It was then a black box wrapped around Ophis, covering her body in a black blood-like substance. Ah, my apologies. I haven't introduced you guys yet. This here is Samuel the Dragon Eater. Issei glared at him, though of course the man couldn't see. The suit disguised his face. However, his teeth were on display, and they were very angry looking. Dragon Eater? What is your plan, you bastard? Are you saying you want Ophis killed? No. That isn't our intent, but we plan on taking her power for ourselves, of course. We can absorb her power with this, as you can see for yourself. the man said with a smile. Samuel was drawing something out of office as the tentacles would show a purple-like aura inside of the blood flowing up into Samuel into an orb. You bastard! I will kill you for this! How dare you harm such an innocent being? Issei roared, jumping into the air as he slung himself towards Curseus. Curseus stood his ground as Issei lunged forward with a fist, striking the man right in his arms. Curseus had put his arms up to block the attack and Issei struck the blockade. Issei quickly kneed the man in his gut, forcing the man to stumble back and no longer float in the air. Issei continued his assault, not letting up on the man. Low kick to the left knee, knee to the face, and Spartan kick to the. Curseus flew about 10 yards away, skidding on the ground on his back. He, however, quickly stood up, popped his neck and spat some blood out. Very impressive. You fight with nothing held back. Admirable, but mistaken, Curseus said. With a smile he snapped his fingers and Issei was surrounded by magic circles. 1 second later, the magic circles exploded all around Issei, hitting him from all sides with the powerful magic. Issei flew across the bridge, heading off the side of it towards the black void down below. Issei coughed up some blood and quickly shot a web towards the bridge, slinging up towards it. As Issei pulled himself up on the bridge, he was met with a powerful punt in the face only to find himself being punched and kicked left and right, his face and body being totally obliterated by the man's rapid attacks. Damn, he hits almost as hard as Serorg does, yet he also uses powerful magic attacks like Loki. Shit, I'm in trouble. Issei spotted a hole in the attacks by the man, striking out with a fist right into the man's solar plexus, forcing Curseus to skid backwards on his heels. Issei panted a bit, wiping the blood from his suit before preparing for round 2. Is this all you got? Curseus said with a smile. The man who defeated the evil god Loki and the man who fought Serorg and won? Is this really you? Pathetic, and you think you can save that kitten? What? Oh, right, my apologies. Your entire family is being targeted. Well, your devil family, that is. What do you mean? Simple. My 3 boys are going back to finish your friends off. Should be simple, really. We led that annoying pest of a fallen angel away, and the traitorous Valet team is off fighting one of our own strong allies. How dare you? How dare I? I am a descendant of the old Beelzebub, my silly boy. I am the brother of Shalba as well, though I hear you fought him. He escaped your wrath though, right? Well, I made sure to keep an eye on you to see what you are made of, and honestly I am underwhelmed you beat Loki like this. Sure, you used your environment, but you have gotten stronger, yes? I thought myself nowhere near strong enough to take on the Asgard, but if you beat them it's clear I could too, Curseus said with a smile. He put out his hand and formed multiple magic circles. Now then, I shall be finishing up then. Once I'm finished with you, I'll pay that cat of yours a visit. Oh yes, I told my friends to keep that one alive at all costs cause I shall be having some fun with her. Oh yes, lots of fun if you know what I mean, Curseus said with a grin. Issei's rage arrived at an all-time high, listening to the bastard talk about his kitten that way. It was then Curseus heard Samuel make a sound, so he turned his head only for his eyes to go wide. Hey! What the do you think you are doing, you damn reapers? Curseus said, turning and charging at the pair of reapers. They were opening up a magic circle and beginning to disappear. Damn it! Hades is betraying me after all? The reapers and Samuel disappeared, silently, leaving Ophis behind. Shit! That evil bastard betrayed me. Damn it! What is he planning? It was then Curseus was struck in the back by a powerful blow, striking him right in the lower spine. Issei shoved the man onto his back now, sitting on top of his as he began to rain blows upon the man's unprotected face. He sent fist after fist into the man's eyeballs, striking him with all his might. The man had but Issei in the face when he got the opening, but Issei roared in fury as he just kept striking. Issei was in a furious rage. Not wanting to beat him, not even wanting to kill him. No, Issei was aiming to mutilate the man who has threatened his loved ones. He loved Kaneko. He loved Rias. He loved Aquino. He loved Asia. He loved Ravel. He loved all of the females in his life. He was not going to let anyone harm them. No one harms my family, Issei roared, putting 2 fists together and preparing to strike downwards. Crusius was bleeding heavily. His nose was broken and was in a weird shape. His eyes were barely open and they were bleeding. His forehead had a dent in it, and his jaw was slightly broken though he could still talk. Crisius grinned. You really are that strong, you just need to be prodded. Funny, really, I thought I could beat you with just myself, but I guess I have to use this. Crisius said, stabbing Issei in the neck with some kind of needle before pressing down on the plunger. Issei slammed his fists down onto the man's face, killing him. Crisius' brains splattered all over the bridge. Issei stood up and began to walk over to Ophis, a smile on his face. Come on, let's go hoah! Issei roared in agony, going down to his knees now. Issei knelt over and held onto his head, holding his head as he roared in agony. It's the ing pesticide again. Issei's suit receded into his body, unable to keep a hold on itself. I'm sorry, Issei, but I am unable to hold on. The pain has reached me. This is extra strength stuff. Partner, this void, it's going to tear your body apart within minutes. I'm sorry, but I think this is the end. Issei was unable to respond as he rolled on his back, shaking in pain from the agony of the pesticide. However, Issei closed his eyes and began to stand up, the pain subsiding away. It's gone. Simple, partner. It's already did the DMG to you. Your brain can't recognize pain or any sort of feeling. I'm sorry, partner, but this is the end. No, I have to get Ophis out. Goodbye, Issei. I had fun. Toxic quieted down, accepting everything after his last piece. Issei was surviving the void longer than expected. It has been 10 minutes since the suit was removed. Issei had a strong protection against magic, it seemed, or at least some magic protection. Hey, Ophis. Ophis replied, looking up at Issei, who was walking with Ophis now. What do you want to do once we return? Return? I have no place to return to. I do not have the power to return to stay in here. Then you can return to my place, Issei said, his breathing getting shallow. His eyes began to get blurry, so Ophis began to support his weight now. The house of Venomous? Yeah, that's right. You seemed to enjoy the time there when we played video games, went to the movies, you got along with the others, right? Issei said, moving forward. I did have fun. That's good, Issei said, falling limp now, his heart slowing down. Back at home, Rias was rushing towards Azazel, who arrived home. Azazel, Issei is in some kind of dimension. I don't know where he is. He went to save Kaneko from the Cow's Brigade and he disappeared. Whoa, calm down, Rias. What happened? No time to explain. Issei has not came back yet and I am not sure how to get him back. I think he went into the dimensional gap according to Kaneko's description. The gap, eh? This is not good, I'm not sure of a way to the gap. Vala appeared with Kuroka from a black magic circle. I can help with that, Vala said. Rias looked over at him quickly. Really? You can? Yes, but I don't think it would do you any good. You need to summon him directly. Azazel put a hand to his chin and looked at Rias. Rias, I think if we use Satan's DNA, we might be able to summon someone of similar DNA from the gap. Rias ran with everyone, except Vala and Kuroka, who walked towards them, heading to the basement where Satan slept and ate. Upon arriving, Azazel took a DNA sample from Satan's abdomen before preparing a magic circle. I will need everyone's help in finding him. Everyone needs to focus on this spell, otherwise it may not reach the gap. Everyone put their hands forth and began to focus, closing their eyes as they did so. As the white circle grew brighter and brighter, it exploded in white light before finally dimming down to nothing. Sitting right in the circle was 8 pawn pieces. 8 evil pieces. Everyone looked at the pieces before Azazel fell to his knees. He, that idiot, Azazel said, depression on his face. Akino collapsed onto her butt, sitting there with a lifeless face. She was like a doll. Rias just went into a daze, standing still. Ravel began to hug Kaneko, who was not showing any emotion, and she started to shake her head really hard, saying no while weeping. Kaneko was just not showing any emotion at all, reverting back to her original state. Several days have passed since Issei was killed in the dimensional gap. The 8 evil pieces returned to the Gremry group only to confirm the death of Issei. The women of the group pretty much became utterly destroyed. Akino and Rias took the worst hits with Issei gone, due to Issei being Akino's psychological support, and because he was Rias's only man she ever loved. He was also her psychological support in some way. Kaneko was hit pretty badly too, but she had some strength due to her past pain. She was able to endure it more than others, but she was still kicked down. Ravel just expressed her feelings, and that same day he died. It hurt a lot to know just as you confess your feelings, the person you love dies. Asia was beaten up badly too with the death of Issei. Her first friend died. Her first love. The person who showed her a new kind of life. A life outside the church. Currently the Gremry group was in the underworld, in the Gremry castle. Rias was in her bedroom, Akino was in a separate room in the dark, while Kaneko, Asia and Ravel was with Kiba in some kind of den. Kiba was holding on, but he was quite shaken up with the death of Issei. Currently, the T.V was on to some underworld news and it was showing quite a bad sight. As you can see, the gigantic monsters that suddenly appeared are progressing towards the capitals without stopping. On the TV, the camera was focusing in different monsters at different times. They were all humanoid monsters with ginormous limbs. While they were humanoid, some of their hands ended in sharp blades, or some of their heads was shaped weirdly. Some had 16 eyes, some had multiple arms coming out their back. It was just a bunch of grotesque monsters running amok. In total, there were 13 monsters. 12 of them were the same size, but one of them was 3 times the size of the other 12. This monster was by far the largest and most threatening. This one had 6 arms coming out his back. The 6 arms had blades instead of hands. He had 2 eyes, a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth, and a killing intent through the roof. All these monsters were like Black Shadow. Currently, the top devil groups were fighting against these monsters. Ultimate class devils and their peerages. This was how the devils were fighting back. Also included in this fight were fallen angels, Greek warriors, Norse warriors, and angels. It was an all-out war, and it was only getting worse. Coming out from these beasts were mini beasts about human-sized. Currently it was up in the thousands of an army of shadow beasts, only getting larger by the second. Coming from the legs was 12 beasts of each beast. That was 24 beasts per beast, and that was 312 beasts produced every second. How can this be? The attacks of the ultimate class devils and their groups aren't even affecting them. They won't slow down, the reporter said with fright. What? What is this appeared behind the monsters? It's a portal. What is that coming out of head portal? It's an army of skeletal creatures. Oh no! Grim Reapers have appeared in the skies and have engaged the allied troops. Kiba stood up and his eyes were wide. That bastard is actually making a move? I see that we have another opponent. Well, the gods are being moved in as well. I hear Odin is heading to the battlefield shortly, as is Michael, Surzex, and the other Mouse. Their servants are on their way as well, but this looks really bad, said a voice. Kiba turned and it was Riser. I came here as my brother's escort. I wanted to check up on Ravel and Rias, but since the situation is like this, I can sympathize with you, Kiba Yuto. Kiba looked down for a moment, then back up. Have you been able to meet up with Rias? Riser shook his head. I couldn't. She wouldn't even open her door or respond to me. Well, she isn't in a situation where I could meet her since the man she loves ended up like that. Kaneko put a teacup onto the table for Riser. Here is your tea. Kaneko then took a seat in a chair in the corner. She had the expression she had before Issei wouldn't ever show up. Though it looked a bit worse actually. She had a sad expression on her face. Listen, Ravel. You have to cheer up, said a voice. It was another phoenix. Ravel, the eldest. Ravel looked over at her brother, but she began to sob again, this time in the arms of her oldest brother. Ravel would gently rub her back, soothing her. Ravel looked over at Kiba and gave him a very small smile. You must be Rias's knight. You seem to be doing quite well in a situation like this. I commend you. It's remarkable, really. The queen and the king are very depressed at Venomous' death. The one who should be calm like times like this is you, but you held such deep love for your comrade, yet you can withstand it. Remarkable. Thank you very much, but I'm close to my end. I understand our family wanted Ravel to become Venomous' servant, and possible send her off to him if we could have. I know, but I'm not sure if Issei had any sort of plans to be a king. I'm sure he could have been one by now. That much is true still. What will happen to her future isn't decided, but can you allow Ravel to stay here? She had made friends, it seems. I believe it was Kaneko and Asia? She talked a lot about both of them through the magic circle. She seemed very happy. Of course, we will. The room goes quiet once again, except for the T.V. which the reporter was screaming about something. It seemed the skeleton army was never ending, and they had powers equal to an ultimate class devil. This wasn't good. It seemed that they were easily destroyed, but the never-ending army was a problem. The Grim Reaper in the air, those were a major issue. They were killing soldiers left and right. It seemed they were legendary class. Ravel sat next to Kaneko, and her eyes were filled with tears. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing into her hands. This is too much for me. I was finally able to get closer to the man I respect and have affection towards. Yet, I was somehow prepared for this, no matter how strong Kiba or Issei are. There will be a time when they will reach their limit, Kaneko said. Ravel stood up and looked at Kaneko, crying but enraged. You are accepting it too fast. I can't be strong like you. Kaneko began to break down as she began to shake and cry. I also reached my limit. He died after I. He's stupid. He's stupid, Kaneko said, hiding her eyes with her sleeve while crying. Kaneko, I'm sorry. Ravel, it's too painful to bear, it's too much. Kaneko sobbed. Kiba stood up and made his way to the door, which was knocked upon. Appearing in the door was Sarog-Bale, Rias's cousin. You? Yes, I have come. I was called by Sona. You must be here for. Yes. Can you take me there? Of course, Kiba said, walking with Sarog down the hall and towards the room with Rias. As they walked past Akino's door, they heard a male's voice in there with her. It was her father, as Akino just said, Dad. I can see that she is also getting help. I'm glad. Yes, it's good. This really must be hard for you all, losing him like that. It is that man. Sarog stopped in front of Rias's room and opened the door. I'm coming in, Rias, Sarog said, walking over to Rias, who was sitting at the table, looking down at Issei's evil pieces while having a hollow expression. Her eyes were swollen red. She must have been crying all this time. You show me something boring, Rias. Very boring. Rias had an unpleasant attitude and voice now. What do you want? I received a call from Sona. I received this call privately so nothing was leaked. Rias didn't say a thing, just looked at the pieces. Let's go. There is a crisis in the underworld. We have been called to arms. We are devils with great powers and we need to show and demonstrate it to the people. It is not my concern. So you will fall this low, just because you man's whereabouts are unknown? Rias, you were supposed to be a better woman than this. Rias throws a pillow at him, striking him in the face with the pillow as she got enraged. A world without him. I don't care about the world without Issei. To me he was everything. He was more important than anyone else. For me to live without him, Rias said, shedding tears. That man. The man who loves you. Venomous, Issei Hyoudou, is not in love with a woman like this. Sarog said loudly. That man was a strong person who kept on standing up for your dream. He stood up no matter what. How can you, the master of the man you loved, have such a low capacity and appearance? You are disgracing his name. Rias looked at him shocked, but Sarog continued. Stand up, Rias. That man stood up no matter what. He stepped forward. He just kept on going forward. You should know that man. The man who defeated me in a fist fight head-on, you should know him the best. He defeated me, only with strength. Stand up, Rias. Stand up and fight. Rias hesitated for a moment, not moving. And do you really think that man died? Rias and Kiba looked at him shocked. He then smiled. Then that is something to laugh about. There is no way that man will die. He has always refused to give up and die. He has fought Loki and won. He has fought the hero faction and won. He has fought Vala and won. He has fought me and won. Do you really think he would die and leave you all behind? He loved all of you females. He was not a weak man. He tried his best to make you all happy and it worked, didn't it? He would not leave you behind after promising all of you that he would stand by your side and protect you. I do not think that Issei Hyoudou is a liar and neither should you. Sarog calmed down and smiled. Isn't that Venomous? Isn't that the man that has shaken the world with his appearance? Sarog said before turning around. I will wait at the battlefield. Definitely come reason. And Gremry team. How can you call yourselves his comrades if you do not protect the children of the underworld who that man tried to protect? Serorg left, leaving Rias alone with Kiba. Rias stood up, a light in her eyes. He's alive, Rias said to herself softly. Issei is alive. Back in the underworld, Hades was sitting on his throne of skulls. Hades was a skeletal priest who wore priest robes with a very scary-looking staff. His robes were a pure black, like the darkest black you could have ever known. Hades smiled, unknown to others as the robe covered his face, smiling as he watched the underworld through a magic circle. Those damn annoyances think they are so great with their precious venomous and sacred gears. Yeah, right. What a joke. How dare they think they are so great compared to I? Hades said with a roar, snapping. It was then out of the portal in the underworld appeared two large Cerebuses, dogs with 3 heads and fire coming out of their eyes, noses, and mouths. Kill them all. Teach them a lesson. No survivors, Hades said with glee. After we conquer this, Olympus is next. I will be damned if I am stuck down here forever. I have waited many centuries for this, and I have planned. Soon I will become unstoppable, Hades said, looking over into another magic circle. From there, Samuel was being prepped for something. The dimensional gap. A red rocky-like object. No, not rocks. Scales. Red. Red like blood. Moving with grace. Wings flapping. A dragon. A dragon bigger than any dragon ever before. Great red. The true dragon. Ugh, my head. What the hell hit me? A choo-choo train. So you're awake finally, yeah? Toxic said. Toxic, what happened? I thought we. You did, but you're back. I don't understand. Take a look around you. Issei looked around and first noticed that he was transparent. What the hell? I'm a ghosty. Shit! The Ghostbusters are going to eat me. You moron. Keep looking around, Toxic said with a laugh. Issei continued looking around and noticed he was on something flying. The hell? I'm on a dragon? Yes. You are on a dragon. What the hell happened, Toxic? Well, you were hit by a pesticide by Curseus, right before you smashed his brains in. You passed out as did I, but a minute later I awakened only to find myself carried by Ophis onto this big dragon here. Great Red, if I am not mistaken. Ophis? Where is Ophis? I came here to save her. Hit. Ophis said, smacking on the head of Great Red. I shall defeat Great Red. Well, I'm glad she's okay, Issei said with a laugh. So what am I? You are essentially a soul. I am using my soul to protect your soul. You can say that my soul is your armor. Oh, wow, thank you. As I said before, you are my partner. We have been through a lot, and I have not had as much fun on my planet as I did with you. So I'm only a soul? What about my body? It was then Ophis stopped hitting Great Red and looked up into the sky. Toxic quieted down at this, letting Issei talk. You didn't return to your world? To me, this is my original world. I meant that why you didn't return to the underworld or to the human world. You said let's go home together. That is why I stayed. I will go home together. Issei widened his eyes a bit. Wow, this is no terrorist, she is so honest, she is pure, she was just used. Ugh, so, what about my body? The pesticide killed you, so the dimensional gap began to erase your body. I pulled you out quickly and placed you into my own soul. If I was a bit slower, you may not be here. I see. Look to the far end to the left, I think you may be surprised. Issei looked over and actually flew over, taking a look inside. There was a huge swollen block of flesh. It wasn't red or white, it was black. Dark black with a slight red aura inside. What the hell? This is a cocoon in easy terms. What do you mean? What is inside? Your body. Ophis and Great Red have decided to make you a new body. You will be revived by Great Red's flesh and Ophis's powers. What? Toxic began to laugh evilly. Yes, you will be revived by the true dragon and the dragon god. I also did something for you. My symbiotic body survived. I had that placed into the cocoon. You are about to witness the full power of this fully operational Death Star. What? Haha, I'm kidding. I watched the movies lately and it was fun. What have you been doing while I'm supposed to be asleep? Calm down. Your conscious is the only thing that needs sleep. You were fine. Sheesh. So you are helping me out? Of course. I like you, Issei. You were my favorite host out of the many hosts I've had, and now it is time for you to know the power of the symbiotic organism. Let us prepare for the counterattack, my friend. Hades has made a big mistake. Issei smirked. That he did, and we are going to make him pay. That's my boy. Back in the underworld, Rias and her group were fighting against 2 Grim Reapers, about 20 skeleton soldiers. Right now they were being pushed up against a corner, being beaten back by the magical power of the skeletons, while the Grim Reapers made them afraid as their scythes were quite dangerous, destroying life force with a single slash. It was then all the skeletons exploded with a single blast. Serorg appeared. I got your back, Rias. My servants and I will be by your side. Thank you, Serorg. Ha 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 ha. I really think this will be fun. The son of the Great King and the daughter of the Gremries. Really, this has been a lucky day, said a voice. High above, a 3rd Grim Reaper has appeared. He was wearing a different outfit altogether. A black one with a scythe adorned with humanoid skulls. Who are you? Pluto. Pleased to make your acquaintance, not that we will be meeting for much longer. It was then, a crack appeared in the sky, revealing something large and red. 5 minutes earlier in the dimensional gap, Issei was standing on Great Red's back, no longer a soul. He had his new body and he was testing it out. Can you help Toxic? Of course. You will actually have all my memories of your new abilities, but give it a few minutes. However, what you are? You are no longer a spider human. You are a human though. However, you are something even greater than that. First off, you are born from Great Red and Ophis. Due to this, your physical capabilities have just skyrocketed. You are stronger now than you were before, and you haven't even become a devil again. Next off, since I put my symbiotic body into that cocoon, you basically can do what you did before when you had it as a suit. I see. I can shoot webbing? Not quite. Let me continue though. Your web is no longer a web. However, you can shoot the black material as a webbing. It will be stick and it will be stronger. Let me explain even further though so you understand something. As a symbiotic organism, I have the ability to strengthen the powers of my host. However, it gets even better. You have all the abilities of my previous hosts now. For instance, you can absorb things through your mouth. You bite them, and you suck their powers or blood or whatever, hint hint. But again, you will have this all in memory. I see I can suck blood? Can I transfer this blood to someone? Ah, good, you caught it. Yes, you can. Hey, good, and now I see what you mean, the memories of the powers and abilities, they are flowing into me. Wait, I still have all my spider powers? Seriously? Of course. You are a host. You have just become even stronger. Fantastic. Hey, how do we get to leave? I'm not sure, asked Great Red. Hey, Great Red. Can you please return me to the underworld? My friends need my help. With a loud single howl, a crack was made in front of Great Red. From there, Issei could see the chaos. Death and destruction ran rampant across the underworld. That those bastards. Look at what they are doing to my world. Are you ready to end this once and for all? Yes. Issei turned to Ophis. Ophis, I'm going. To the place where I can return. I see. That makes me a bit jealous, Ophis said, sounding quite lonely. Issei extended a hand to her. And you are coming with me? Ophis opened her eyes wide and seemed shocked. Issei smiled. You are friends with me, right? Then come. Let us go home together. It was then, Ophis finally smiled. Venomous and I are friends. I will go together with you. Toxic, however, spoke up. Hey, Issei. How about we start our attack from up here? What do you mean? Let me take over. Save your strength for Hades, plus I want to have some fun. Can you take Ophis down with you? Of course. Tell her to hang on tight. Ophis, my partner is going to take over, all right? You need to hang on tight to him when we drop down. All right. Issei closed his eyes, and that is when Toxic grinned a malicious grin, forming the black suit around Issei. This time Toxic had taken control. Back in the underworld, Pluto had Cerorg and Rias pushed up against the wall, surrounding them with one of the large monsters and a ton of skeletons. However, they had a barrier up, protecting them as much as they could. Is this it? Ha! This is really fun, Pluto said before getting into a sing-song tone. Death, death, all around. I can't wait till you die. It was then a crack in the sky appeared, forming a large hole in the sky. Out from the crack appeared a large black ball. A humongous ball. It was enormous. The ball fell from the sky, heading towards the largest of the monsters. The one 3 times taller than rest. This monster was about 5,000 feet behind Pluto, approaching slower than the other monsters. The orb opened its mouth wide, before coming right on top of the big monster, engulfing the large monster whole. As it finished swallowing the monster, the ball bounced on the ground and spun around in the air before it reformed and formed a large humanoid black object. It was a venomous kind of armor. Issei? Rias said, looking at him hopefully. Of course it wasn't Issei, but Toxic was too far away to hear him. Toxic let out a roar into the heavens. He was the size of the monsters now. It is good to be back. Now then, let me show you how we did war on my planet. Toxic yelled out, charging into the monster with a shoulder charge. The monster began to fall, but Toxic grabbed onto its head and formed a hand into a sword. He swung the sword into the monster's neck, then ripped its head off, killing it. Ah. This is going to be fun. Who the hell is this guy? Shit! He just killed a monster. Damn it! Kill that bastard now, everyone! Focus on the big guy. Everyone turned to Toxic and surrounded him, but he just grinned. All around him were 3 of the monsters, 2 Grim Reapers, Pluto, and half of the skeleton army. The others were on their way to the main capital now, their course changed. It seemed Pluto had taken charge. TKS, surrounding me like that, eh? Not a good tactic, Toxic said, putting out a leg at a 90-degree angle. He then turned the outstretched leg into a large blade before shrinking the other leg, going to the level of the skeletons. He then quickly spun around, chopping up the skeletons like a lawn mower, laughing evilly as he did so. As the Grim Reapers came down, Toxic shot out 20 tentacles from his back, grabbing the 2 Reapers with 10 tentacles each before ripping them apart. He then turned to the other monsters, quickly charging at them. With the closest one, he bit into its neck and you could visibly see the purplish aura entering through the teeth and into his body. The monster disintegrated after 5 seconds of the sucking. He then turned to the second monster and opened his mouth, forming a large white orb. He then fired the white orb into a beam, striking the first monster with the beam, destroying it before turning to the next one, destroying it. A beam of light. Ahahaha. Is this really all you have to offer me, Hades? Is this all you got? This is pathetic. Ha ha. Toxic said, laughing maniacally as ran away from Rias and them and went towards the capital, running as he did so. Ophis was hanging on tightly on his left shoulder, actually forming a kind of seatbelt with his body. Was that Issei? Rias wondered, not so sure now. No, that was not Issei, Cerorg said with a sigh. That was his other persona. The symbiotic organism. Wait, does that mean Issei is alive? Rias asked. I believe so. I believe that really is Issei, but I do not know for sure. Before we can do anything about that, I believe we have to deal with the one up there, Cerorg said with a glare. Pluto. My, such anger. Well, I do believe it is time to return. I know a lost cause when I see one. Pity, Pluto said, flying off towards the large portal that was still there, though it very slowly began to close. Toxic kept on fighting. He was firing light beams at the monsters, killing them instantly while he swung his massive fists downwards in arcs, killing the skeletons. He would ignore the Grim Reapers as their sides actually began to get stuck in the body of Toxic. The skeletons actually would attempt to pull out the sides only to find themselves being sucked into the body of Toxic. It was like quicksand. As he noticed that the devils had the situation under control now with the death of all the monsters, Toxic turned his attention to Hades now. The portal. Toxic began to spring towards the portal, his footsteps like thunder, as he bounded towards the closing portal. The portal was almost closed when Toxic got there, so he leapt into the air, making his body into human size now, entering the portal right before it closed shut, popping audibly. As Toxic landed on the ground, he was inside some kind of underground cave. It was a humongous cave as well. He looked around and noticed that he was in a shrine. The shrine had several drawings depicting the three brothers: Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. "It is time for you to play Issei," Toxic said, placing Ophis onto the ground instead of on his back. Toxic waited for a few seconds and was gone, in which Issei awoke. "Hey Toxic, did you win outside?" "Damn right I did. I had fun. We should do it again sometime." "Do what again?" "Kill an army." "No. Not if I can help it." "Ah. Whatever. I'ma go to sleep. Good luck with Hades." "Thanks. Ophis, I need you to come with me, but make sure you keep yourself safe." "Yes." Issei nodded and made his way over to a large pair of doors, breathing out a breath before opening them. "The time has come." As Issei opened up the large decorated double doors, the voice of someone he knew and respected hit his ears. "One thing. This is my own personal feeling, so please allow me to say it." No response. "The god of the realm of the dead, Hades. The evil intentions directed towards my sister and my brother-in-law Issei Hyoudou will require your death. I will eliminate you from this world. I will not hold back nor will I hesitate, but it seems I am not going to be the one to fight you." "Really now? Who then? The fallen angel over there? The angel? Who is going to take my life?" Azazel looked over at Serzex. "Are you nuts? You are the only one who could fight him and win." "It seems only I noticed." "Interesting. Well, here he comes." Coming from around the corner, as when you opened the doors there was a decent-sized hallway before it ended up in a big room, Issei walked around in his suit, which was more like his own body now, hissing at Hades with anger and hate. "Issei? You live?" Azazel exclaimed. Issei smirked. "Of course. I am back in black and stronger than ever. You should know getting rid of me isn't so easy." It was then everyone noticed Ophis behind him. "You idiot! You brought her along?" Azazel exclaimed, looking a bit hesitant over at Serzex, considering how weak Ophis was now. "I am not a fool, Azazel. I do know what I am doing. Serzex, I want to apologize for deceiving you. I have been the one who has been sheltering Ophis." "I know." "You did?" Azazel exclaimed. "As my brother-in-law, I am no fool. I suspected as much that Issei would be the one to watch over her. He is that kind of person. Tell me, Issei, why did you do it though?" "Simple. She isn't a bad dragon. She was only a mascot. She may have gave them snakes for power, but she never touched us. She has a bad reputation, and after being with her and talking with her she has no ill will towards us. Only great red, and even then, it's disappearing. She is a pure dragon, and I decided that I would protect her from all threats." "I see," Serzex said, sighing. "Do you understand what it means for her to be associated with us?" "I do, and I don't see a problem. I am a Mao, correct? I do not have a special part in the government, but my status should count for something, right?" Issei said with a grin. Serzex smiled. That is very true. I believe the underworld may trust the hero of the children, Venomous, if this was found out." "Good. Now then," Issei said, turning to Hades, his expression turning to anger and hate. There is nothing I can say to you without obscene profanities that would describe what I think you are." "I see you lived." "Yes. You don't realize what it means to have friends. Real friends. I am friends with Ophis, Great Red, my partner Toxic, and the Maos of the underworld. I am friends with the angels, the fallen angels, and many other religions because of what I have done. I never actually went and called for your death. While this is true, you made one mistake though." "What was that?" "You threatened my friends and family with death," Issei said, hissing now, preparing to pounce. "And for that you will pay. Bring it on, child. I have lived since the beginning. You have no idea who you are messing with." "All I see is something to pick my teeth with when I am done," Issei said, charging at Hades. Issei disappeared in a flash, moving at hyperspeed. Issei moved faster than before, moving much faster than when he was a spider guy. Hades put up his large staff into a blocking position and Issei struck right at the staff, sending a black fist right into the middle of the staff, which was held with both hands by the skeleton man. When the fist struck the staff, a massive shockwave was created, hitting the rocks all around the two. When Issei drew his fist back, Issei sent his left leg right into Hades' own left, striking it in the side right in the side of the knee. There was a loud sickening crack. Hades, however, hit Issei square in the with a black orb coming from his palm, which exploded and sent Issei skidding backwards on his feet for a few yards. The black orb exploded into wisps of black mist or smoke, before it went inside of Issei. Coming from the walls, floor and ceiling, were many ghosts. It was souls. The souls of the dead. You may have the power of physical at your side, young one, but you are messing with the god of the underworld. You will now suffer the wrath of 100 souls that are going to tear apart your own. You are only a mortal. I may be mortal, but there is one thing you forget, Hades. What is that? I am Venomous. I am the hero of the underworld. Hero of the children. You are messing with Rias's Gremry's pawn. Issei roared, opening his mouth wide, forming a wide orb in his mouth. He then bit down on the orb, exploding it in his mouth, which sent the light in a shockwave in all directions, which purified the souls which came at Issei. It also blinded the entire room, minus Issei, which gave him plenty of chance. Issei charged right at Hades, who was blinded by the light, sending a wild haymaker right into Hades' face. Hades finally got his vision back as Issei's fist crashed right mid-center into the skeleton's face. Hades flew right across the room, striking a wall 30 feet away before falling to his hands and knees. As Hades began to get up, he looked up and saw Issei's left foot coming in for a low kick, striking Hades in the right arm, sending him flipping into another wall. Issei then moved his hand and some of his suit became a webbing, shooting off from his fingertips, wrapping the webbing around the left ankle of Hades before swinging him hard into another wall. Hades got up as Issei walked over towards Hades angrily. Hades growled at Issei, his eyes glowing amber. A dangerous color. How dare you think you have what it takes to fight against me? Do you even know who I am? I do not care who you are. I care about what you do, and what you have done is unforgivable. You will pay for messing with my family. No one messes with my loved ones. Issei roared, leaping into the air with a fist extended, preparing to bring it down hard onto Hades. However, Hades moved his staff and pointed it at Issei, firing a quick black shot right into Issei, which exploded, forcing Issei back on his feet instead of in the air. Issei began to cough and cough as the black orb entered his body, clouding his vision and other senses. Issei began to feel dizzy, but he then felt pain as Hades began to strike at Issei. Hades first sent his staff into Issei's gut hard, before bashing him on the left side of his face, then the right, the top of the head, bottom of the jaw, into the groin, which sent Issei to the ground on his knees before left and right of the head before the final underhanded smash right into the center of Issei's face. Issei was sent flying by the last part, missing a tooth from his venomous persona. There was blood coming out of the suit now, which Issei coughed up several times. However, as Issei got his vision back, a humongous black orb the size of a cow struck Issei dead center, in which it kept on moving, taking Issei with it. Issei was sent flying across the room with the orb before Issei hit a wall. However, the orb kept moving for several seconds, crushing Issei with the force of a train before it exploded and sent Issei onto his hands and knees. Hades laughed and began to float towards Issei, his staff glowing dark purple now. Issei was coughing up a lot of blood now, his flood staining the floor as he was on his hands and knees. He was still a human underneath the suit, and this man was a god. Issei may have physical strength of a god, but Issei's defense against magic was terrible. Magic was always his weakness. Any last words, young one? Yes. Never underestimate your opponent, Issei roared, turning into a black goo before moving the black goo quickly. Issei appeared behind Hades, who quickly turned, but Issei grabbed onto his staff with both hands so Hades couldn't use it to strike. Issei then formed two tentacles from his stomach into large fists before sending them both right up into Hades' gut, striking Hades with a sneak attack. There was some cracking heard from the strikes, in which Issei felt the grip of Hades weaken slightly for a second. Issei grinned. Issei sent two tentacles right into Hades' gut, but Hades formed a black magic circle in front of the fists, blocking them, but two tentacles came from Issei's shoulders, hitting the face of Hades twice, in which Issei used the weakened grip on the staff and tossed it away. Hades was shocked for a second, in which Issei used that time to trip Hades off of his feet, forcing Hades to fall back, in which Issei sent his fist downwards into Hades' face, sending him into the ground hard. Issei grabbed the head of Hades, yanking him up onto his feet, in which Issei began to rapidly punch Hades in the face, striking Hades with all of his might. Hades was unable to react under the barrage of attacks. Issei formed both of his hands into hammers, in which Issei began to attack even more, striking with precision blows on the sides of Hades' face, striking the sides of the jaw, breaking them. After successfully breaking the jaw of Hades, Issei sent 2 fists into the gut of Hades before picking him up and slamming him over his shoulders onto the ground, before climbing on top of Hades. Issei grabbed the neck of Hades and placed his knees on top of Hades' arms, sending his left fist over and over into Hades' face, watching his strikes slowly chip away the bone. The amber in Hades' eyes began to flare, in which Issei stopped his assault. Issei got up from Hades and backed away, looking down at the god. He walked over to Azazel and looked at him. I wasn't going to kill him, despite his doings against the people I love. He is needed. Azazel smiled. And I am proud of you, my student. You will have to tell me how you escaped the gap and what happened. I want to know this story too, xDoug said with a smile. It seemed the angel was gone. In time. Sure. When I get to tell the story to my friends, you guys should listen, but first, Issei said, before turning around and walking over to Hades, who had repaired his jaw and began to slowly sit up. Issei looked down at Hades, who looked up at him. What are you? Hades asked. Simple. I am Venomous. Now, for your crimes against my family, you have paid for them, but you have committed crimes against xDoug, his family, and the children. What do you want then? Hades asked, looking over at him. Simple. Where is Samuel? Take me to him. Hades laughed. Is that all? Yes. That is all I desire. Samuel. Very well, Hades said, sighing. He opened up a nearby door, in which there was another large room. Samuel was standing in a magic circle which was purple and glowing. Issei walked over to Samuel, in which the magic circle disappeared. Samuel was on his cross, with a large black orb on his side. Issei smiled and sighed happily. Issei opened his mouth and sank his fangs right into the neck of Samuel, who made no sounds of pain. Hades, Azazel, and xDoug all began to watch as blood began to flow into Issei's mouth, only to be absorbed by the suit. After 10 seconds of this, Issei released his hold and let out a loud belch. Ah, not too bad. Tasted weird but not unpleasant. Now then, time for the main course, Issei said, kneeling towards the black orb. Issei sank his fangs into the orb. This time a purple aura began to flow into Issei's body, though his teeth, visibly showing the fact he was taking something from the orb. The orb shrunk and shrunk until it was no more, all of what was inside disappearing into Issei. Issei walked over towards the door again, heading over towards the trio that was watching him. What did you just do? Hades asked suspiciously. Well, I first absorbed Samuel's blood into my body. I am taking the power of the anti-dragon and snake within my body. I can use its power now in my venomous bite. Secondly, I took Ophus's powers. Hades looked astonished. You are going to be unstoppable with her power and the power of the anti-dragon. Yes and no. I have no plans on keeping her powers, Issei said, walking over to Ophus and kneeling. Ophus? Hold out your arm for me, this will only hurt for a moment, okay? Ophus obliged, showing her trust for Issei. Issei grabbed her arm and sank his fangs into her arm, which penetrated the skin. A little blood came out, but not much. It was then the trio and Ophus watched as a purple aura began to flow out of Issei's body and back into Ophus. Azazel had wide eyes, Hades was surprised, and xDoug just smiled. Did you just give up her powers and gave it back to her? You really are a young fool, Hades said, walking over to his throne. A fool? Probably. I could have used her powers to do anything I wanted, but it wasn't my powers to begin with, Issei said, looking at Ophus and giving her a smile. It was Ophus's and I decided to give it back to her. Why? Why return my power? Ophus asked. Because I do not want it. I do not need it. You had your power from birth, and there is no reason for you to not have it. You got it taken away by force, and I am giving it back. Consider it my present to you. Today, I will designate as your birthday, Issei said with a smile, rubbing the top of Ophus's head. Now let's go home. Yes, Ophus said, smiling another smile. This smile was just as good as the last one. Thank you, Ophus said. Issei nodded and took her hand in his, walking over towards Xerxes and Azazel. I want to go home. Can you help me? Xerxes nodded and made a magic circle. This will take you to my castle. You will have to find your friends on your own from there, Xerxes said. Very well, Issei said, entering the magic circle with Ophus. They then disappeared. Issei put Ophus onto his shoulders, holding onto her legs. Ophus began to look around now as they appeared in the field of the Gremory Castle. To the west. West? Yes. Asia is there. Thanks, Issei said, heading west. As he began to make his way over, Issei was still in his suit. He spotted a group of figures standing around. They looked worn out. It was Rias and the others. Kaneko, Irina, Asia, Ravel, Aquino, Kiba, Serorg. Here's Johnny, Issei yelled out, coming over. Everyone looked over at him and Ophus with a dazzled face. It was like they saw a ghost or something. They acted like they didn't recognize him. He went to all this trouble, and this was the welcome back he gets. He sure was ignored. Issei removed his outfit and gave a smile. I'm back in black, Issei said with a grin. About 10 minutes later, Issei made his way downstairs alone. Kaneko and Irina had already went downstairs, so Issei had time to get dressed. Issei arrived in the dining room wearing a pair of cargo shorts, white socks, and a t-shirt that had a Japanese pop culture icon on it, some giant fire-breathing lizard. Issei took a seat at the dining room table, along with the other females of the house, eating a breakfast that was made by Aquino and Rias. It was a simple breakfast with eggs and some bacon. Issei slowly ate his breakfast, still quite filled with the activities from the morning. There was conversation at the table, but it was just between the girls. He wasn't included in the talk as he just ate his breakfast. However, the grandfather clock that was in the hallway near the front door began to bong. It was 30 minutes before school, so Rias got up from her seat and began to wash her dishes. Everyone else, except Issei, got up and handled their dishes as well as it was school time. Well, it's back to school for the second semester. Rias started off. Let us show the school how we ORC members do in school. Everyone, minus Issei, shared a good loud yes. Issei wasn't one to do these things, not that he unhappy or anything, but it was just not his cup of tea. Issei stood up and washed his dishes, walking over to Rias. Rias? Yes, Issei? Rias said, turning to him. Do you still want me as your pawn? Of course I do, Rias said with a smile. However, her eyes went wider in surprise. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about that. Do you still want to be my pawn? Issei nodded with a smile. Of course. I've had so much fun being your pawn. I have no interest in leaving your side. Rias blushed and brought out his 8 evil pieces, presenting it to him and placing it inside his body. The evil pieces gave a small hum and a red light appeared in the middle of his. Issei closed his eyes and shuddered in pleasure, as the warmth of being fused with his pieces passed through his body. Issei groaned in pleasure, smiling. Now that is what I am talking about. So good. So great to be back with my evil pieces. Rias smiled, but she quickly grabbed her bag. All right, let us go to school. Everyone followed her out of the house, but it was then he was suddenly clung onto. Kaneko jumped onto his back and then sat on his shoulders, while Rias took his left arm and Aquino took his right. He was apparently a taxi. Issei smirked a bit and walked with everyone, heading down the road towards the school. Luckily, carrying Kaneko was a piece of cake. She was very, very light despite the fact she could put a hurt on you if she wanted to. He loved his kitten. They finally arrived at school, so Kaneko jumped off his shoulders while Aquino and Rias finally released his arms. Issei had been getting very dangerous stares from the other members of the school, as there was a lot of anger directed towards him. He had 3 hot females at his beck and call and everyone knew it. They watched how the girls interacted with Issei. Yet they had no clue he had other females as well. The bell rung for the beginning of class and Issei was looking around, making sure there was no one he knew. When he noticed the coast was clear, he turned around and left out the front door. He jogged out of the yard, and when he finally reached a safe spot, he started to walk again, heading back home. Issei felt like such a bad boy skipping school. Something a nerd could only dream about. Now he lives the dream kinda. Issei arrived home in about 15 minutes, entering the quiet household. He had decided that he wanted to go down to the underworld and go to a hot spring. His body still ached from the fact his previous body was destroyed and had to be rebuilt. He was still getting used to his body, and even though his body accepted the evil pieces, his body got worse. It wasn't dangerous, but it ached. He really needed a good massage. Issei walked into his bedroom and grabbed a towel from his closet. It was a towel that he bought specifically for him, as it was a very comfy towel. Egyptian cotton. He closed his eyes and pointed his right hand to the ground, and a small black magic circle appeared under his hand. It then flew to the ground and enlarged under his feet, forming a transportation circle. It wasn't the Gremry magic circle, but his own. The symbol used in the circle was a spider and a spider web. Unknown to him, a figure stepped in behind him, and he and the figure were transported. Issei opened his eyes as he transported himself into the Gremry castle grounds. He began to make his way towards the hot springs, opening the large gate. The figure that came with him from the house still followed him. "Where are we going?" said the figure. Issei was startled and he stumbled forwards, almost crashing into a pole. He placed a hand over his heart, as he almost had a heart attack. Issei turned around and noticed Ophis was with him. His eyes went wide seeing her with him. "Ophis? What are you doing here?" Issei asked softly. He wanted to yell, but he knew better. "I followed you here since I am curious to know what the spider does every day." Issei laughed softly for a moment. It was more of a chuckle. "Well, I skipped school because due to me getting a new body, my body has been aching. I am still getting accustomed to the body, so I am here to get into the hot springs. Maybe a massage as well." "Do you hate it? My new body?" "Of course not. I thank you for everything you have done for me, Ophis, but you shouldn't be here. If the underworld has caught you here, it would cause a mass panic and problem." "I see," Ophis said. She looked a bit sad. "But you can stay with me, just don't go wandering off, okay?" Issei said. He should send her home, but he hated seeing Ophis sad. Ophis had a small smile on, seemingly happy that she was granted permission to stay with Issei. Issei made his way to the hot springs and undressed himself, getting completely naked. He placed the towel on a rack, and as he began to climb into the hot springs, he heard yelling. "Hey! Hey! That's..." It was then an alarm was heard across the courtyard, and not even 10 seconds later, Issei and Ophis were surrounded by 50 armed guards. All prepared to attack with swords, spears, axes, and magic. Issei looked around naked, his eyes wide as he cursed himself. "Ophis, just stay with me, don't hurt them." "Okay," Ophis said, holding Issei's right hand. Issei and Ophis were now inside of a red and black magic circle, being transported somewhere. When they finally were done being transported, they found themselves in a large jail cell. There was 2 beds, a toilet, a sink, and just a small metal cage door. However, Issei could smell the magic that held this cell. Powerful magic surrounded the room, keeping them inside, though Issei doubted it would hold him or Ophis. Ophis looked up at Issei and tilted her head. "Is this for me?" she asked, pointing at herself. "It's for both of us. Because I was here with you, I am pretty much at blame here too for you being here. We are being held in some kind of jail cell because of the fact you are associated with the Cows Brigade, at least according to the underworld." "Oh. I'm sorry." Ophis apologized. Issei looked at her and smiled. She was getting a lot more open and emotional than before. It was quite awesome. "Don't worry so much." Issei smiled. "They won't take you away from me. You will be by my side wherever we end up. But you may be stuck in here for life because of me." "Nah. I don't think so. I do have friends on the outside, including several of the leaders of the Alliance. I believe they will have some pull to let me out, but I'm taking you with me regardless." "Why? Why are you doing this for me?" "Easy. You are my friend. You saved my life as well, and now it is my turn to save your current life. While I know they couldn't kill you, being locked away doesn't sound very fun. So, I will save your current fun life you have at my house. No one will harm you, Ophis. No one harms my friends." They don't know you as I do, and they think you are a bad dragon, though I know you aren't. You will stay by my side for as long as you wish, and I will not allow anyone to take that away from you." Ophis nodded and fell silent, her mind beginning to race. Issei sighed and relaxed on the bed that he and Ophis sat upon, but he decided to lay down with his legs behind Ophis. He closed his eyes and began to relax. Outside of the prison, Rias and her entire peerage, including Kiba, approached xDoug. "What is this about Issei in prison?" Rias asked, worried. "It seems he brought Ophis with him here." "What? He should know better." I know, but I think Ophis snuck along and Issei's good nature wouldn't send her back. I'm sorry, but I am unable to release him from the prison right now." "I understand that, but is there anything you can do?" "Well, right now it seems there will be a large courtroom hearing about this tomorrow. Angels, fallen angels and devils will be attending, including gods from other religions. I'm sorry, but it doesn't look so good." "Damn it, Issei," Rias cursed. It was the next day about 3 in the afternoon. Issei and Ophis were brought into a large outside courtroom. Issei was dressed in his old clothes and Ophis was in her black Lolita dress. Rias and her peerage were sitting in one section with Serorg and his peerage and Sona and her peerage. Azazel sat in another section with a few fallen angels, while Michael sat in another with a few other angels. Irina sat with Rias. xDoug and the other head devils sat in another section with Graphia. There was Zeus from the Greek gods, Odin from the Norse, and Sun Wukong from the Hindu. The judge was a female angel. "Alright, everyone. Today we are here to determine the fate of Issei Hyoudou and Ophis, the infinite dragon that is with the Chaos Brigade. Who wants to start?" Issei raised a hand. "Issei Hyoudou can have the floor." Well, to start this out, you guys are wrong." There was a bit of uproar from this statement. The judge looked at him. "How so?" "Easy. You say Ophis here is terrorist. You are wrong." There was a lot of uproar now, but the judge banged on her table. Things quieted down. "I don't understand Mr. Hyoudou. She is well known as a terrorist throughout all the organizations. While that is true that your reports have her as a terrorist, but I say differently. She is no terrorist. She was just a pawn in their games. She has never once touched us, and while it is true she gave them snakes, hasn't the snake production stopped quite quickly?" There was some murmuring about the courtroom, but Issei continued. "See, you guys know that this was true. The snake production stopped almost as suddenly as it began. Do you guys know why? No? Well, that is a simple question. She has been living at my house." Murmurs again. The judge, however, looked at him. "Are you saying that Rias Gremory and the entire peerage knew about this?" "Yes, they did, and they at first wanted to attack her, but I stopped them," Issei said. Rias looked at him, eyes wide at this. She was getting the blame for this too. "So xDoug knew about this?" the judge questioned. "Not at all. I actually hid Ophis away when our great leader came to visit. He has never once knew that Ophis was at my house nor had any clue that I was harboring Ophis. I was the only one who started harboring him, and I forced Rias to do so. She was afraid to go to the authorities for my sake." More murmurs. "I know what I did was wrong," Issei continued. "But when I got to know Ophis, the infinite dragon, I realized that we were all wrong about her. She was not some scary terrorist. She wasn't a real threat to the underworld. She was a pure dragon who had only one thing on her mind: returning to the dimensional gap, her home. The terrorists told her that they could take her there if she provided them with power. She obliged because she is a pure dragon. She is innocent. She didn't know exactly what she was doing. Honestly, she wasn't even kept in the loop about the activities of the terrorists. She just wanted to return home." More murmurs. Ophis was currently just sitting down and looked up at Issei, who was defending her. In the corner of the courtroom was Samuel, the one that took her powers away in the first place. It seemed they made a deal with Hades to kill Ophis in the end. "Allow me to ask you something, all of you. Not just the judge, but every single one of you. Do you think I am a terrorist?" Everyone looked at him, and there was silence. "Do you, Judge? Do you think I am a terrorist?" "Well, no." "Then, allow me further to question a few of you. Odin, who was it that protected you from your son?" "You." "xDoug, who was it that protected the underworld countless times?" Who was it that protected Ku Academy from the first attack by the terrorists? You and your friends. Issei nodded and looked over to everyone. Who was it that saved the children from the nuclear explosion many months ago? There was a unanimous. You did. Who was it that came back from saving one of my dear friends from the dimensional gap and came back to save the underworld from the god of the dead, Hades? Another you did. Then I ask all of you. Do you think of me as a terrorist who wants to bring down the underworld? No. Then who am I to you? Venomous, said a child. It was the child that was crying about not getting an autograph. A bunch of children stood up. Venomous! 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 The chanting went around the room by the children, and several adults, including Sarah Fall, stood up and began to change Venomous. As the chanting died down, Issei took a breath. Then I ask all of you. Could you find it in your hearts to trust me once again to do what I think is right? Could you find it in your hearts to believe me when I say Ophis here is not a threat? Could you find it in your hearts for harboring Ophis without the knowledge of anyone's knowing? Could you find it in your hearts to allow me to continue serving you all as your protector? A ton of murmuring happened, as the entire room got into an overlapping conversation. The judge, however, banged on her gavel. Well, it seems that we are all in agreement, yes? If anyone here has any objection, I would like to set Ophis and Mr. Hyoudou here free and drop all charges upon them. Anyone have any objections? Not one soul even looked like he was hesitating. Not one soul. The entire courtroom was in conjunction. Ophis and Issei were to not be jailed or charged with treason and terrorism. All charges against them would be dropped, and Ophis would be allowed to be free to do what she wants within the alliance. Issei looked at Ophis and smiled widely as the entire room went into cheers. I told you, Ophis. I will not allow any harm to come to you. You and I are friends, Issei said with a smile. Issei was then approached by someone, Zeus. Unknown to Issei though, Ophis was blushing. Venomous, was it? No, Issei Hyoudou. I have been watching you for a long time, ever since you became such a big thing in the world, Zeus said. Well, I have to say it is an honor to talk with the chief god of Olympus. Zeus let out a hearty laugh. Well, I am glad to see that you have been set free. I wanted to personally thank you for handling my brother. Issei nodded. It wasn't a problem. He had it coming for causing problems with my kitten. Zeus smiled. I see. Well, thank you for not destroying him, though you had every right to. He was needed in the world as the god of the underworld. Zeus nodded and gave him a hearty handshake. It was then Issei felt a tugging on his shirt, and he turned around and looked down. It was Ophis. The courtroom went completely silent as Ophis grabbed Issei's shirt and pulled him down, ing him on the. The courtroom cheered at Issei being ed by the infinite dragon, though Issei was completely confused and shocked, so Ophis was just ing him, and he was just taking it. It seemed Ophis has joined the harem. 2 weeks have passed since Issei was in court on the charges of treason against the world. Issei had been housing Ophis, who was to many the leader of the Cows Brigade, who were a bunch of terrorists. Issei learned she wasn't, and had actually talked to the infinite dragon, making friends with the being who had never known true friendship. Issei had fought in court for the right for Ophis to be set free, and he won. The only reason Issei won was because of who Issei was. Venomous. The defender of the underworld. A being who has saved many religions and the world many times. Loki, Hades, the attack on the school, Vala's betrayal, and many others. Due to this, Issei had a reputation that got him and Ophis out of harm's way with the world. Due to Issei fighting for Ophis, Ophis set him on in front of the entire underworld, and the religious worlds as well. Issei was quite shocked by the, unable to react, but it was over in about 10 seconds, but he still did not have much of a coherent response to what happened. So 2 weeks have passed. It was quiet and peaceful in the world. There were no more terrorist attacks, though everyone knew they still existed. So the world was allowed to relax for a while, though still ready for the Cows Brigade to make a move. It was also quite peaceful in the Hyoudou residence, or as Rias keeps saying, her house. It's always been Issei's, but she is quite possessive, and Issei has just stopped trying to fight for the right to call his house his house. After the court session, they had went home that night, and while Rias tried to make a move and have some hanky-panky, Issei had went to bed early. Issei did love with his girls, but he felt extremely tired lately, his body feeling weaker. This did not worry the ladies, considering he has been through a lot lately with all the shit happening, but the entire 2 weeks he has stopped their advances and went to bed early. Not only that, but he has been sleeping longer and longer, ignoring school mostly, though he would always make it up and still be top of the class. The girls got worried after about 4 days of this. They had gone to Azazel after about 6 days, and he went into the room with Issei and examined him while he was sleeping. The girls thought that Issei was sick or something, but Azazel smiled at them and shook his head. Issei was just exhausted. He has been fighting so many strong opponents, gods and whatnot. This was not something just anyone can do. Even if Azazel or Surzex fought, they would be exhausted too. Issei has been running so hard and hasn't had time to stop and take a break. The girls were relieved to hear he wasn't hurt or anything, just sleepy. Ophis never actually made a move on him, never even tried to sleep in his bed despite the girls doing so when he was sleeping. Ophis had just had him and left him alone to sleep. Ophis slept in the living room in the corner between 2 couches. She seemed to like sleeping on the floor, so no one complained, though after a few days Rias tried to see if she wanted something comfier. Ophis declined her offer. Ophis still liked Issei a lot, but she was not used to having such affections towards someone. This was her first time. She was still learning. So the girls that were with him was Irina, Asia, Kaneko, Ravel, Rias and Aquino. These 6 women were always sleeping in his bed, with Rias and Aquino taking his sides, Kaneko taking his inner thighs for a pillow, Asia curled up above Issei's head above his pillows. Ravel would take the foot of his bed. Irina was a bit more reserved in this regard and slept with Ravel, snuggling with her. Out of all these girls, only Asia hasn't made a move yet. So 2 weeks have passed since the incident in the underworld, and Issei was finally waking up from his slumber. He groaned softly and opened his eyes, looking up at the ceiling before sitting up. He let out a loud yawn and stretched, popping some joints. He looked over to his right at the clock and saw it was noon. It was a Saturday, so there was no school. He climbed out of bed, only in his boxers as that is how he liked to sleep, before grabbing a fresh change of clothes. He had not showered as much as he would have liked during his recharging, but he wasn't exactly stinky either since he wasn't sweating much at all. After grabbing his clothes, he walked over to the door and spotted the date on the calendar. Issei always crossed out the day when he wakes up, and the girls seemed to have done it for him. When he spotted the date, his eyes widened for a moment before letting out a sigh that wasn't exactly happy. It was his birthday. Issei never celebrated his birthday. Never. His adoptive parents weren't exactly affectionate or anything, so he never had a birthday party or a birthday cake. No presents. No nothing. So this date had somewhat of a depressing theme to him, though not really either. He was not exactly sad, but he wasn't happy either. More of meh. He was feeling very meh. Issei made his way down the elevator and to the humongous indoor bath. He climbed in and relaxed against the warm stone wall, smiling as the hot water began to take effect. It was then he shut his eyes and began to think about his life so far. He was very happy with his life. He was having fun in many ways. He was glad to serve Rias, despite the fact he knew very well that if he asked for her to jump, she would. He was very happy with not being in command, though of course he would do what was needed even if it went against what Rias would want. He would sacrifice himself for his loved ones, though he knew that any of them would sacrifice themselves for him. He was well aware of the immense love each one of them shared for him, except for Ophis, as she was a bit unreadable. He even knew about Asia's infatuation with him, though he wasn't one to make a move. The girls would be the one to have to instigate the first contact, though afterwards it was fair game. As for all the conflict with the people he has had to have fought, he was on the fence about where he stood. He did enjoy fighting as shown with Serorg, but he hated Loki, the Hero Brigade, or that damn bastard Curseus. He hated all of them for what they attempted to do. Even Vala kind of angered him, though now Vala is on good terms with him. At first Kuroka was the same as Vala in terms of angering Issei, but considering that Kuroka was now part of his harem, things couldn't be better. He disliked the enemy for trying to destroy what he loves, but he loves the combat. He has almost died many times, and he did in fact die to Curseus, though thanks to Ophis, Great Red and Venomous, he was alive and kicking and stronger than ever, though his lifespan was a bit low. Luckily Kaneko has been helping him with that Kuroka too. So, all in all, he was enjoying his life. Issei smiled happily and slid down in the bath, eyes closed. He was happy with his life and wouldn't change it for the world. However, unknown to Issei, somewhere in the house evil was plotting. Wait, it's Issei's birthday? Asia asked. Rias nodded. It is. I checked his birth records and he was born today. Cool. Are we having a party for him? Back in the church, I loved having birthday parties, though I never had any real friends, but it was still fun to celebrate. Rias gave her a small frown. I would like to do a party, but am not sure how he would react to one. From my understanding, he has never celebrated his birthday. He was orphaned as a child and he was adopted later on. His adoptive parents didn't actually love him, they used him. So I'm not sure what we should do considering. I say we go for it. Everyone loves a party, Aquino said with a smile. Kaneko nodded. I agree with Aquino. I think Issei should get a party. Not just for his birthday but for everything he has done. He has done a lot for the alliance between the three great powers and the other powers. In fact, I think he is the reason the other religions joined our alliance. He has given so much and has taken nothing in return. It's only right he gets something. Rias nods to their words and smiles. All right, let's go plan the biggest party for Issei for his birthday, and a thank you. Did I hear something about a party? Said a familiar voice. It was xDoug. Brother, what are you doing here? I just wanted to check in on you guys, of course. I want to make sure you are happy after all. Rias went red in the face and puffed her cheeks out. I don't need you to check on my happiness. You know damn well that I am happy here. Stop being so clingy. Don't say that. I'm just trying to look out for you. Well, don't, Rias said, turning her head away angrily. xDoug smiled weakly and looked around. So what is this about a party? Issei's birthday is today and we want to celebrate it, Asia said happily. Really? Well, I think that sounds like a nice idea. Where is Issei? Kaneko pointed downwards. In the bath. Aquino looked over at her. How do you know this? I can sense him. I have that power, you know. Ah. xDoug smiled. So a birthday party, eh? Yes, though we want to make a party for his deeds to the world as well, Asia said happily. Well, that sounds splendid. I shall go send out the invitations. What? No. You don't need to help with that. We can do it, Rias said, not wanting her brother to get involved. Oh, but I insist. As Devil King, it is my duty to honor our defender, xDoug said with a big smile, disappearing in a red circle afterwards, not letting Rias argue further. Rias puffed her cheeks out in irritation and humphed. The others smiled and laughed a bit at the brother and sister interaction. Downstairs, Issei was asleep once again, though this time in the bath. While he did feel back to normal, the water just lulled him to sleep. It was about 7 hours after he woke up the first time that he woke up again. He already cleaned himself, so he was clean and ready to get out. As he woke up, he yawned and stretched, getting out of the bath and drying off with a towel before getting dressed in a pair of cargo shorts and a plain white t-shirt. He went over to the elevator, but when he pressed the button to go up, nothing happened. His brows furrowed, but he then noticed a magic circle portal nearby. On top was devil letters saying, Issei. The elevator is down. It will be repaired tomorrow, but I can't do anything today. This will take you out of there and back to the main floor. Sorry. Rias. Issei nodded and walked into the portal, only to find himself in utter blackness. Not even his devil eyes could see. Ah, holy hell. Alright, where am I? Issei wondered, putting his hands out blindly and began to walk forward, looking for a wall. Eventually he found a wall and began to scoot to the left, hoping to find a light switch. However, he found a door. He opened the door, and when he entered in, the lights suddenly turned on, and what happened next made him jump nearly a foot in the air. Surprise! Happy birthday, Issei! Yelled the entire room. Issei's eyes went wide. He was not in his house anymore. He was somewhere else, yet he knew he wasn't in any danger. Why? Well, they yelled happy birthday. Obviously he was in a very, very large room and was very surprised. Why? Well, Rias and the gang, xDoug, Seraphal, Vala and his team, Azazel, Zeus, Odin, Riser, Ravel, Irina, and Serorg was there. Even Ophis was there. They all yelled happy birthday. Issei was opening and closing his mouth like a fish, unable to find anything to say about what just went down. He was then approached by Asia, who smiled and grabbed his hand. Happy birthday, Issei. Come on. We got a party for you. Issei nodded dumbfounded, following Asia over to the party tables. He was brought over to xDoug and Azazel, who gave him a good slap on the shoulders. Happy birthday, Issei. We also wanted to get you a party as a thank you for everything you have done for us, xDoug said. I am very proud of you, boy. I was assigned to look after you for the longest time, but it seems that you don't need anyone to look after you. We need you to look after us. So thank you for everything. You make me proud, Azazel said. Issei nodded. It's not a problem. I can't let the people I love get hurt, Issei said, admitting his love for the girls, in which they all blushed. For the next couple hours, Issei was talking with everyone, getting a happy birthday from everyone. He has gotten many yes, including one from Serafal, which again rendered him stupid. He also spent a couple hours playing various party games like Pin the Tail on the Cerberus and other innocent games. It was a fun party and Issei enjoyed it. While he has never had a party, he was happy that he had one. As everyone left for their own devices, going off to run the underworld or go fight powerful beings, Rias and the gang, which included Irina and Ravel, stayed behind. It was really late now, and it was nearing bedtime for everyone, which meant party on Issei's bed. As everyone began to head off, Asia stopped and grabbed Issei's hand, pulling him down and pulling him into a big, which surprised everyone, especially Issei, at how bold the former nun was. I love you, my dear Issei, Asia said boldly, pulling him into another, sealing his with her own, silencing anything he could have said, not that he could. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the xDoug-Dimmadome-x for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.